5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
How about we do it again?
6, 7, 4, 3, 2, 1. I think I followed it.
Okay, let's try one more
I
time.
definitely
Ready?
I can move you. Making review.
Say 6,
6,
5.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the season premiere of Rank and Review, an episode that should more or less speak for itself. This is the voice of your host and random Canadian, Larry Parsons. Me and one of my best friends in the world, Scott Lehman, are going to talk about 6 Muppet movies. Is that typical of Rank and Review? No. Do I care? No. Is this going to be 6 reviews that are just overflowing with love and praise? Yes. Deal with it. As usual, there will be spoilers. As usual, there will be coarse language. And as not usual, this is going to be just piping full of Muppets. And I'm here for it. Send your feedback to ranknreview@gmail.com. That's RANKNREVIEW@gmail.com. The website is Ranknreview.ca. Please support the Shelf-Shedding Movie Show hosted by my friend Jason Dubray. And thank you so much for lending your ears to Rank and Review. We drop every other Wednesday. But why not why not Muppets I Spit on Your Grave?
Oh, I spit on your Muppet.
Or a zombie movie where if you get bit by a Muppet, you slowly become a Muppet.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, eh? They kind of like Black Sheep, but
I'm down.
I mean, we got Little Shop of Horrors. That's kind of like a Muppet horror movie, but
Dark Crystal has some really scary stuff, but I guess it's not an According to Hoyle Muppet movie.
all right, we should probably start.
All
You
right.
just take the reins and lead me.
Well,
the master of disaster.
Full disclosure, I've been recording for almost a minute already. Scott Lehman, welcome to the season opener of the 11th season of Rank and Review. And brother, this is going to be season premiere, season opener. This is an incredibly special episode to me. And already from our preamble talk before I pressed record, I know it's also going to be a special episode for you. Scott and I have talked about torture porn. We've talked about, like, zombies a couple of times. And he's my hardcore horror dude. He's my brother. I've known him as long as I've been alive. And today, what are we going to talk about today, Scott?
We are talking about the fucking Muppets.
The fucking Muppets, bitches.
I'm sorry for swearing, but yes, this is a full-on Muppet episode.
Yeah.
And I think, Larry, this is honestly going to be a love fest like Rank and Review has never seen before or heard before, perhaps. Like you've done retrospectives of Halloween and Friday the 13th and all these franchises that we are big fans of. But I don't think anything really has the love that the weird, maybe excessive love that we're going to spew for these little felt creatures. But
the Muppets have been there for me my entire life. I have never known a world without the Muppets. When I would visit my grandparents in small-town Alberta, they had the terrible, terrible reception, and I would struggle to watch through this snowy reception, Sesame Street, in the hopes that I could watch some Muppets. I had a little plastic record player that I had this vinyl albums of the Muppets, and I could listen to these records of the Muppets, and I swear to God, Scott, it was like they were in the room with me. They were company. They were my friends. I love the Muppets, and it never died. It never went away. I never got to a point where I was too old to love the Muppets. I dragged friends of mine to see Muppets from Space in the theater, and they made fun of me, and they came out of the theater, and everybody had huge fucking smiles on their faces. So, my love is large for the Muppet movies. If you expect me to be talking shit about any of these 6 movies, that's just not going to happen. My love is large for the Muppets.
With you, brother. I mean, there's so many childhood Muppet memories I have. One of them definitely includes you. I know in your childhood bedroom, you had a Muppet Show poster that I thought was the coolest thing that I've ever seen in anybody's bedroom. It was like, you know, the opening of the Muppet Show when they're all lined up under the arches, and I think you had like every character was in this. And I just remember standing in your room and just staring at this picture, just analyzing just every character. And I don't know what it was about it. I was fascinated by the Muppets ever since the first time I seen them.
I think
I'm a huge fan of the Muppet Show, and I would, you know, we didn't have, you know, it's crazy now because someone could just go on Disney Plus and
watch
like
it.
Any episode they want to watch now. But I had to watch, you know, one at 5 o'clock or whenever it was on. But we didn't have VCRs. I don't know if they were around or not at that point. Maybe my family, we didn't have one. We couldn't afford one if they were invented by then. But I had a tape recorder though, and I would take my tape recorder and hold it up to the TV and record just the audio of the Muppet Show episode, and I would listen to it later. And I had a whole like a 90-minute cassette, you know, best of the Muppets, and I would just, it was strange, but man, partly the innocence of them, you know, the cuteness of the characters, but also the fun, and some of it was maybe a little bit more edgy than we realized maybe growing up, and maybe that was part of it as well. I mean, there's rewatching some of those episodes now, there's a little bit saying, whoa, I'm not sure that's okay now.
Well,
but
anytime you look at a show that's like 40, 50 years old, you're going to run into that stuff, be it a kid's show or not. But I think, yes, the Muppets were trying to appeal to everyone. Like, some of the Muppets had their debut appearances on Saturday Night Live. Like, Jim Henson didn't necessarily mean they were exclusively for kids. When he licensed it to the public broadcasting for Sesame Street, he kind of opened himself up for that. And most of the time when people think puppets, they think kids. And I guess I can understand that. But I think, as much as it does appeal to kids and adults, I think maybe the secret magic of the Muppets is that they're quote-unquote real. When you're a kid and you're watching a cartoon, you know you're watching a cartoon. My friend Jeremy just showed his young son Raiders of the Lost Ark, and his son said during one of the stunt sequences, "Dad, this looks really real." And a kid knows the difference between a stunt and a special effect, somehow intuitively. And Muppets confuse us as a child, because we see that Muppet standing next to a person, and we believe that person, but as a child, we absolutely believe that Muppet. And the illusion, it sustains longer and harder for us. For me, that childlike sense of wonder just never goes away. And you can see it when actors work on Muppet sets. You watch any behind-the-scenes footage, the camera will call cut, the director will call cut, and the actor will talk to Kermit, and the puppeteer will continue to talk to him as Kermit.
Yeah.
Like, the weird...
I've seen, Sesame Street outtakes.
That's right. The weird blending of the real world and the Muppet world is just magical. And I think that as a child, I locked into that. I didn't understand it, but I loved it right away. And that just never went away.
At no point watching any of these movies this time, or any of the times I've watched previously, am I imagining all the grown men on the floor with their hands up these puppets and crawling around. Because if you stop and think about it, this set must look ridiculous, but I'm not thinking about that. These are real. That's a real frog, and that's a real bear, and these are real chickens. And that's the illusion that they've created, is these are characters. These are our heroes, and we love them. And there's probably 6 guys on the ground crawling right now that we don't see. But not once do you think about that until now. But and we talked about, like we've seen Sesame Street outtakes. It's like a real thing now, where Kermit will flub up his lines or something, and he jokes to the camera. Wasn't it Louis Dreyfus, swore or something on an outtake, and Kermit says, "Well, that's a quarter for the swear jar." And, these are characters, and they're laughing together. None of them are looking down at the puppeteer. It's just great. And another thing with the Muppets is the humor is real humor. It's humor that an 8-year-old can laugh at. It's humor that a 50-year-old can laugh at. Like, funny is just funny, and these guys they're funny.
Well,
get it.
They divide their humor between dad jokes, and I don't say that with any like I'm not trying to be mean. They're just like really groaner, obvious, old school dad jokes with very kind of
vaudeville.
Yeah, vaudeville. With very modern, winky kind of meta jokes, where Kermit will talk directly out of the TV to us. He will he breaks the fourth wall. And again, that's a weird concept to sell to kids, and they do it so effortlessly.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm 50. I'm 50 watching these, in preparation for this, and at no time did I feel this week saying like, "What am I doing? I'm too old to be watching this." And no, exactly not. I'm down here. I look forward to the next one. I'm singing along to the songs.
Yep.
I'm tapping my feet. I'm smiling. I'm laughing. I'm getting a little choked up at times. They're puppets, and I'm choked up, Larry. I'm feeling things, and it's just great. And part of it is it brings me back to my childhood. Probably a big part of that is I remember seeing the Muppet movie in the theaters when I was so young, and owning the soundtrack on record to The Great Muppet Caper, and all these things. And so every time I can almost speak along some of these lines with the movie, but man, it brings me back just to a great time.
I sort of split the list because we're not covering every single Muppet movie. I mean, there's only so much time we have here. There are 3 that exist in the age of Jim Henson, and there are 3 that happen after the death of Jim Henson. And as much as he was a mighty creative force, there's a lot of people that are involved in making the Muppets. One of the things that I saw was a shock to me. Somehow in my head, Jim Henson directed the Muppet movie. I always believed that he directed the Muppet movie, but no, he did not direct the Muppet movie, as we will discuss. But I do think that he was an important component of the heart in the Muppet Show. He gave us Kermit, and I think Kermit is the anchor for which we sort of built all the rest of the Muppets. When you're a kid, they don't have to be based off anything. Kermit the Frog is real. Gonzo the Great is real. You don't have to know that he was inspired by Hunter S. Thompson. He's just a crazy alien Muppet, right? Ralph the dog is a dog that loves to sing at the piano. You don't have to know that he was inspired by Tom Waits, but when you do know it, it's amazing, right?
Yeah.
I appreciate
and every member of the Dr. Teeth, right?
Yeah, Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem. One thing that I would like both of us to keep in mind, because maybe when we go back to this at the conclusion, we can give our posits of what we want from the Muppets in this modern age. I actually really enjoyed the Mayhem show that they just did on Disney Plus, but it was canceled after 1 season. Every Muppet show that has been in existence since the original Muppet Show has been canceled after 1 season. And they've been having a real hard time getting people to go line up to see the Muppets. Disney doesn't seem to know what to do with the Muppets, but they can't let them languish. They're just a source of good in the world. So maybe, I don't want to spring it on you, maybe we'll come back to this when we do our ranks, but what do we want from our Muppets going forward?
We're now 10 years between Muppet movies.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe, usually I would say that's too long, but Disney haven't forgotten about them.
They're still out there.
They're right. They'll do a special, like they do a Halloween special, or do the Mayhem series, or they had the other ones, or they'll just do like YouTube bits or something here and there, just to kind of keep us aware of them and say, yeah, they're still around. We're still doing Muppet stuff, but maybe they're just not sure, like you said, what to do with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good question. I think 10 years, it's time to bring them back on the big screen. And I got a granddaughter now. Yeah, I'd love to take her. I remember taking my daughter to see the Muppet Show again when it was re-released in a local theater, and just more for myself. But one thing I was going to mention, I kind of mentioned to you, I was watching a lot of the old Muppet shows.
Oh, that's right.
After I did the movies, just to kind of having a bunch of Muppet Show moments and revisiting them, and I started thinking in rank and review fashion. I know you do like your 6 movies. I thought here's the top 6 Muppet Show guest host episodes. The ones maybe I didn't watch all 5 seasons, every episode, but the ones that stuck in my brain, I rewatched a bunch of them. But,
Please.
Number 6 was Vincent Price. How cool was that? See Vincent Price on the Muppets right there. Yeah. It's like all of a sudden, this is different. This is not Sesame Street. This is not a children's puppet show. We got this stuff going on.
All the monsters wanted to stay in his dressing room.
Number 5 was a great episode with Harry Belafonte. That one was just pure joy throughout. The music, the songs, just good feelings. Fozzie's funny in it. Number 4 was one that was so special to me as a kid, Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
If you recall that one.
I always wanted to catch the rerun of it. I knew it existed. I'd seen it when I was young, and I'd always wanted to catch the rerun, and I'd never get to see it. The kids today just don't know how lucky they are that they can just press play on whatever fucking show they want.
I mean, it was great. I mean, the special guest star was the stars of Star Wars.
That's right.
So you had Luke Skywalker, C-3PO, Chewbacca was there, and then Mark Hamill was Luke Skywalker's cousin, and they kept trying to get Mark Hamill off the set because he was trying to sing and do crazy things, but get out of here, you're not talented. But they did an extended Pigs in Space sketch. It was great. Gonzo was Darth Vader. So much fun.
Yeah.
I gotta go on number 3. Man, John Cleese was a special guest star of the Muppet
Amazing.
Show. And Kermit introduced him as the star of Monty Python's Flying Circus, and this is clearly not a show for kids because kids don't know Monty Python's Flying Circus. Well, I did because I was a cool kid. Yeah. But watching this one again is great. If you get a chance, if you're a Monty Python, John Cleese fan, watch him on the Muppets because it has that Monty Python feel. The sketches are great. Just his delivery is amazing in it.
Doesn't he stretch out Gonzo's arms or something? I'm trying to remember.
Yes. Yeah, Gonzo wanted to do a stunt where he caught a cannonball, and so his arms got stretched out. Right. So he helped him out.
Genius.
But yeah, it was hilarious. I watched that one today, actually. Number 2 is a special episode with Steve Martin.
Yep.
This is a strange episode because it wasn't even a real Muppet Show. The Muppet Show was canceled that night. They were just auditioning new acts for the Muppet Show, but they forgot to tell Steve Martin this, so he showed up anyways, and he was doing stand-up bits, balloon animals, playing the banjo. He's got the arrow through his head, and it's weird because there's no audience, but the audience is Fozzie and Kermit and Gonzo and Swedish Chef. They're sitting there in the audience, and just they're laughing and they're clapping, and every audition sort of seems like it's strange. It feels just like an off episode, but it's hilarious. And number 1 goes to my heart. It's the Alice Cooper episode.
Of course.
When I saw Alice Cooper on the Muppets, for me, huge Alice Cooper fan for forever. But he's doing Alice Cooper songs, and we have the Muppets, and he's talking to Miss Piggy about trying to get her soul or something to the devil. And,
he was making contracts for the Muppets, wasn't he?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So those are kind of the 6 that came to my mind, kind of the quickest, and these are just such great memories. There's other ones we watched with Cal Welch was a strange one because they were constantly saying how sexy she was, and she was calling Fozzie Bear sexy, and you're sexational. And Scooter goes into her dressing room and says, "We're not going to make you wear any of those revealing costumes unless you want to." And about 8 monsters come in and say, "Please want to, please want to."
Yeah.
I wanted to put Linda Carter's episode on there because I love
Wonder Woman.
Carter as Wonder Woman. I've always had a Wonder Woman thing. She didn't put on the costume, but Miss Piggy did wear a Wonder Woman costume. It's something about the costume. Miss Piggy looked all right in it. Just gonna say that.
Well, I'm going to back your play on those selections, Scott. I feel like I would have to rewatch them all to make an honest list. But I think the other thing that's fair to discuss is, yes, The Muppet Show included some of the most famous people in Hollywood, but also complete obscura. Some performance artists that Jim Henson saw on Broadway and liked, he's going to have them show up on the show. And everybody works on The Muppet Show. You can be a prestige Oscar-winning actor, and they'll find something for you on The Muppet Show. You can be Alice fucking Cooper, and they're going to fit in like a glove on The Muppet Show. It's amazing. I think the template of the Muppet Show itself was so perfect, it's almost sad that it had to die. It could have almost been like The Simpsons and gone on forever. But then maybe we wouldn't have these amazing movies. I do think we should maybe list off the movies and get started.
Yes.
I don't mind this being an epic Muppet episode, but you know, we gotta get into it. We're gonna talk about the Muppet movie. We're going to talk about the Great Muppet Caper, and we're going to talk about the Muppets Take Manhattan. Those are the three where Jim Henson is directly hands-on in all of the movie. He directed the Muppet Caper, and he worked the puppets in all of them. Then we're going to move on to the post-Jim Henson era of the Muppets, which will include Muppets from Space, Muppets, and Muppets Most Wanted. Scott, thank you so much for doing this, brother.
Here we go.
Muppet movie, scene 1A, take one.
It's the masterpiece that started it all.
Someday we'll find it, the Rainbow Connection.
Come along with those lovable Muppets
My name is Kermit the Frog, and I'm on my way to Hollywood. Moving right along.
as they head off to Tinseltown,
I want you to turn left if you come to a fork in the road.
featuring an all-star, all-rockin' cast. Kermit the Frog,
I hope you appreciate that I'm doing all my own stunts.
Fozzie Bear,
We'll be a team.
the Great Gonzo, and everybody's favorite ham, Miss Piggy.
I am an actress model. I hear this movie is dynamite.
Jim Henson's The Muppet Movie.
So it was a man named James Frawley who somehow got the gig to direct the Muppet movie in 1979. And it does purport to be the origin story of how Kermit made the journey from his modest home in the swamps to Hollywood, where he signed a contract with Orson Welles himself for the standard rich and famous contract.
Rich and famous.
That's right. And along the way, he's going to meet all of our core Muppets and collect them and have a nice, bouncy, wonderful adventure. And it's got an amazing set of songs. I don't think any other Muppet movie came up with such a consistent bounce of, like, awesome songs. There's usually one or two really good songs, but there's no bad song in the Muppet movie. But I think that beyond everything else, moving the Muppets from the small screen to the big screen and, you know, showing us their origin story, and these catchy songs, and everything I love about the Muppets, I gotta be sentimental about the Muppet movie. It is 100% the heart that makes this movie special. And when I say special, 70s is considered sacred territory for cinema. It's like when cinema grew up and became, you know, legit to a lot of people. The Muppet movie is absolutely one of the very best movies made in the 1970s. Period. End of sentence. It was an undertaking never even touched on before. Take any science fiction movie that was produced that decade, this was harder. And as far as impact, two scenes, you mentioned one of them, but I'll mention both of them right here, completely changed my life. Seeing Kermit the
I know where
Frog,
you're going with this.
seeing Kermit the Frog riding a bike, full frame, top to bottom, wheels turning, legs pumping, and seeing Animal turn into a giant, drinking the magic potion, and he explodes to the roof of this house, and he roars so loud that everything in the world shakes. As a child, this was the fucking most amazing thing I'd ever seen, and it blew my mind. Just seeing Kermit below the waist and, like, dancing and riding a bike, like, it broke my understanding of reality, and I loved it so much, and I still love it so much. The scale of the just the accomplishment of making those puppets real in the real world, and the whole conceit of filling the movie with some of the biggest celebrities of the day, but all of them playing tertiary characters. The Muppets are the star of this fucking movie, right? Steve Martin can be a waiter, but the Muppets are the stars. I love this movie. I will never not love this movie. It is one of my favorite movies. Fight me.
I'm not going gonna fight you, Larry. I'm gonna hug you. The snot out of you. You said exactly what I wanted to say. So many kids my age, everything changed when they saw Luke Skywalker blow up the Death Star.
Yeah.
For me, it was when I saw Kermit the Frog ride a fucking bike. That was my cinema moment. Like, what? And still, watching it now, unbelievable. And it looks so good.
Yeah.
Like, to this day, right? I mean, he's riding it. I mean, sure, he's riding it very steadily, but man, it's one of those effects that will last forever. It will never look bad.
No.
It's just brings a smile to my face. Fozzie Bear driving his Studebaker. I mean, like, all these things, it's like, these are real people now. It's like, these are no longer puppets, guys. These are real. These are characters. And, yeah, the songs, you mentioned that. It's a big thing in this movie. Once the rainbow comes on the screen and you hear that banjo, at this point, we've seen it so many times, but, the banjo for the Rainbow Connection starts. And you just get those little goosebumps because you know this song. And Rainbow Connection is one of the 20 best songs of all time, probably. Maybe I haven't really put a list together, but it's
the bookends. I think
song.
The bookend opening of Rainbow Connection, and then to the end where it sort of revisits it with the whole life is a movie and make your own ending thing. It tells the story of the Muppets, but it's also about sort of the value of creativity and imagination and following your dreams. Like, every positive message you could give a child all at the same time.
Yeah, and it's also, one thing I love about it is it's a road movie. And this was, as a young guy, this was my first introduction to a road movie. And the reason why I think I became to love road movies, shortly after that I saw National Lampoon's Vacation. Very different, but, but just, and then it goes down the line. Those style of movies where we're going to travel here, we're going to have an experience, we're going to have some fun, some laughs, but then we're going to move on. We're going to travel over here, we're going to meet new people. And it was a movie like I've never seen or understood before, and I fell in love. You're right. It's kind of how it all started. I think that's what Kermit says to. Pretty much, it's kind of how it all.
More or less.
But yeah, it's just Kermit's just playing a banjo in a swamp, and it was a Dom DeLuise. He just happens to roll by and tells him that Hollywood is auditioning for frogs next week, so you should go down there and be rich and famous. And
right place, right time.
On the way for a guy, very much so. Yeah, let's go and make people. And in the end, it's Kermit's such a kind soul. I mean, his whole journey is about making friends that have the same dream as him, and his dream is to make people happy, and that's really what his whole thing is. Of course, the villain of the film is Doc Hopper, opening the chain of Frog's Legs restaurants, and he wants Kermit to be the mascot. And then it gets really dark, though, when he realizes Kermit's not going to be the mascot. He refuses. He's like, killed a frog. There's a frog killer. Yeah. And as a kid, it's like...
I love the conceit, though, that there's a bounty hunter who exclusively kills frogs.
Yes.
That's a brilliant thing.
Yeah, there's a few moments that kind of twist you a bit as a kid watching it. I mean, that's one. I remember when Kermit kind of got kidnapped. That kind of worried me a little bit as a kid. After he does this little song with Rolf the dog, which is a great moment as well. When Rolf says he's playing the piano, it's like, what does he like to do after work? I go home, drink a couple of beers, take myself for a walk, and go to bed.
Yeah.
but when Kermit kind of got kidnapped a bit there's a peril, actual peril there for a kid. And then the same in the Old West town when he comes out. We talk about riding the bike when Kermit is wearing the spurs.
Yep.
He's going to have a showdown at the end. It's another one. Kermit's walking and nobody's around him. There's nobody holding that puppet up. It looks amazing. But you say something. I feel like I'm going to...
Well, I also wanted to mention... The thing about Kermit that makes him amazing is, there's no competition in him. He's the leader of the Muppets, but, the second he meets you, he's like, oh, I'm going to Hollywood to try and become rich and famous. You want to come with? He's just complete warmth, complete, acceptance of everyone. Yeah, you're a big purple monster with a curtain.
Except,
What's that?
except when they meet Miss Piggy. He says,
Right.
"You want to come have ice cream with us?" "Oh yeah, I'll come to Hollywood." No, I said ice cream.
Well, Miss
Yeah,
Piggy
other
is
than her-
Miss Piggy is the exception, but here's my thing. I would have a hard time picking my favorite Muppet, but I have no problem picking my least favorite Muppet. It is and has always been Miss Piggy. She's a bully, and the only time she's ever really funny to me is when she, like, does her hi-ya karate moves, right? But until then, other than violence, she didn't make me laugh once until Muppets from Space, ever. I just don't. And it's weird because in the initial sort of popularity of the Muppets, Miss Piggy was a huge thing. People loved Miss Piggy, and I'm not there. I'm with you, Kermit. She's toxic. You can do better. You deserve better than Miss Piggy, Kermit. But
She's toxic.
the whole thing, running gag of the movie too, where Sweetums wanted to come along, but they missed. They had a miscommunication, so they leave without him, and he's chasing them the whole movie, trying to catch up. As a kid, I both loved and hated that, because like I just wanted Sweetums to catch up and be with the rest of the Muppets. As far as the scary stuff in it, I think even as a child, I understood that like nothing seriously bad was going to happen to the Muppets. But the other thing is the meta-ness. Like, halfway through the movie, when the characters hit their bottom, the mayhem shows up, and they've found the script to the movie. And they point out where they are in the script.
How did you find it?
And this is the part where the mayhem rescues them, and they take them the rest of the way to Hollywood for the big finale. And, like, the ultra meta-ness, like even in the Muppet Show and in Sesame Street, they would talk to us, but this acknowledgement of the movie, and they're going to do this moving forward in the rest of the Muppet movies too, was sort of another safety net for the kids that we're just all having fun. This is just a big, magical, fun time. So, when they put them in the machine and he's going to turn the Kermit into like a mush-brained slave... It was an exciting scene. It was not a scary scene.
No, we got Mel Brooks hamming it up there, and maybe a bit much even. But I mean, as a kid, kids don't know who all these guest stars are. But that's for the dad that took the kid to the movie. He's like,
exactly.
I love all these guys. And another, we talk about the vaudeville humor, and it's totally vaudeville. The song "Moving Right Along" with Kermit and Fozzie driving the car,
amazing,
is one of my favorites as well. Every time I'm on a road trip, I always put that in the queue, or else I just sing. And I do the voice when I'm singing. You have to. And I don't think there'll be a time when I don't laugh at the fork in the road.
No.
If there's a time when I don't laugh at the fork in the road, that put me in the ground. That means I'm no longer the same person I was.
Oh.
But that is hilarious.
For my kids, though, it was when they finally stopped. I showed them this when they were younger, and they finally stopped the car, and that was a lot of driving, and I'm not a bit tired. And then both of them instantly flop over and start snoring. For some reason, my kids thought that was the most hilarious thing they'd ever seen in their lives. But here's the essential truth, I think, about the Muppet movie, watching it at almost 50 years old. It still moves me. Like, it legitimately moves me at the end. Watching all the sets fall down and the weird sort of shaft of light coming down on all of the Muppets. Not just on the level of the story being told, but of the level of creativity of that. The fact that there are hundreds of people in that room making those hundreds of puppets sing in unison. The fact that, like... The big show doesn't go well, and it's not smooth sailing for the Muppets, and their dream is still going to be a struggle even after they sign the contract. Everything about it, still, on my 200th or 300th viewing, gets me dusty in my eyeballs. There is something magical about the Muppet movie. And, like, spoilers, I said... when we started this rank before we hit record that my number 1 and number 6 was easy, everything else was hard. The Muppet movie is my favorite Muppet movie. And it's a really fucking tough act to follow.
It sure was. It was unlike anything it's come before it. It was groundbreaking in a lot of ways, really. I can't think off the top of my head anything that would rival it before 1979. But man, I've watched it so many times, and it lives and it works each time. Yeah.
Is that good enough on the Muppet movie?
I mean, is there? The only problem is I can't think of anything negative to say.
I tried, man.
Usually you try and find one thing to kind of pick at a little bit, but here it is. I'm going to try and find one thing. Damn it, I can't. I mean, you got your cameos. One thing I want to say is, like, Steve Martin's cameo as the bitchy waiter is my favorite cameo of the movie, because I love Steve Martin, as I've probably made clear before, but he comes on. I don't know who chose his outfit for this movie, but it's ridiculous. His shorts are way too short. His jacket is way too tight. And he's just way too bitchy. Like, the way he plays it, I almost wonder if he was told to play it that way, or is that just a personal choice he made? Because in his movies, I've said before, nobody plays bitchy like Steve Martin. But just the way he comes out there as the waiter, goes, "Yes, may I help you?" It's just so
It seems like he has personal contempt for serving Muppets, and he can't hide it. He's not going to be openly hostile to these people, but he's going to be as close to openly hostile as he can be without doing it. No, it's genius.
And with that comes the negative, if I have to pick one, is you got a cameo with Richard Pryor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe that was the one where it's like, dude, you got Richard Pryor. You got so much you could do there. But I felt like that cameo maybe was a little bit wasted. Could have done a bit more than just give him balloons.
Yeah.
But that's it. I'm saying, just do more with Richard Pryor. But
yeah, and even that really, is still kind of a joke. Like, if you have all of these celebrities and you barely use them because the stars of the Muppets, that's funny to me.
Yeah.
When I was watching it this time, like you, I was looking for something to be critical about, just because, you know, I guess I never in my life have, or even occurred to me to watch the Muppet movie through a, quote, critical lens. And there was a little bit there where I thought, maybe if I was a kid, I would find this part of the movie a little bit slow. But then I corrected myself. I've watched this movie hundreds of times, and I never remember feeling like at any point that this movie was dragging. And I think for any age category, it's pretty safe. Like, short of some of the Pixar movies, like, it's a movie you can just put in, and anybody with half a heart or brain should get behind. I hope you're winking at your wife and not me.
Oh, both of you.
I think in the interest of keeping this under a 3-hour episode, I'm going to wrap up the Muppet movie. But is there anything you want to say about the Muppet movie before we move on?
I love this movie right down to its soul. We've said much. There's so much more I could say, but we're going to talk longer than the length of the movie, and easily.
So let's move on.
Announcing the Great Muppet Caper.
It's a new Muppet movie.
With what? Your superstar. Say cheese.
A glamorous nightclub, and the fun begins.
Mickey, that's my new receptionist dancing out there.
She's sensational.
45 words a minute, about average.
A hired car.
I can only take you as far as the lobby.
And the danger begins.
Welcome home to Happiness Hotel.
A backstage romance, and the jealousy begins.
Don't put a door between us.
Oh, come on! Oh, excuse me.
A brilliant strategy.
We're going to have to catch those thieves red-handed.
What color are their hands now?
And the adventure begins.
Jim Henson, on top of, being the chief operator of Kermit and several of the other Muppets, is also directing this one. I think the spirit stays much the same, but now that we know who the Muppets are, and, we've established that world, everyone's just allowed to be who they are and sort of take part in this adventure. And we got Charles Grodin as sort of like actually playing a character who's sort of the villain of the piece. And although we still get our cameos, once again, the stars are the Muppets, and once again, the Muppets are very impressed and happy with themselves to be in the movie. I love that, there's a long commentary about the opening credits sprawl between Fonzie and Kermit, still going. But, you can tell that they're trying to maintain that really, really high bar that the first Muppet movie set. and the magic's still there, the character's still there. I think it's an impossible task, just on its face. I also really dig that the Muppets are playing a part in this adventure. Like, as much as they're winking and it's Kermit and it's Fonzie and they're winking at us and they're telling us that, they're also playing twin reporters. Coming here to break big crime stories and you know, make their names. So they're playing the characters and the actors are all, you know, playing along with it. But there's this other level where they're looking at the camera and winking along with us. The same bit that they would do on the Muppet show, but sort of trying to sustain it throughout the movie. So it keeps it fun and light and funny. I don't think the songs are as strong, and it doesn't have the aw shucks quality. It's just much more a fun, silly, manic Muppet adventure. But you know what? I'm 100% on board for a fun, silly, manic Muppet adventure. So, no. Am I moved to tears by The Great Muppet Caper? No. Is it one of the greatest movies of the 80s? No. Is it a Muppet movie, and do I love it a lot? Yeah. That's where I start on The Great Muppet Caper.
This one, you're right, it's different because of all the Muppet movies we're going to talk about, this is the only one where they play parts. They're not the Muppets.
Well, they do Treasure Island.
I have a theory that I like to, in my world, I guess, but I mean of the ones that we're doing here.
Right.
I think that we're doing are kind of hold the kind of the heart of the Muppets the best, whereas the other ones that we're not including are the ones where they're redoing other stories, like the Muppets. They do Muppets do Wizard of Oz, Muppet Treasure Island, and the Muppet Christmas Carol.
Right.
But these are Muppet stories for the most part, and like Kermit does a little side thing where he says, in this movie, me and Fozzie play crack investigative reporters. Gonzo plays our reporter. So I kind of figure in my head, I say the Muppet movie was their thing. They went to Hollywood, and this is the movie they made.
Exactly.
That's, if I put it that way. Okay, let's make a movie, and that's, if you do it that way, it's okay, because you're wondering, why are they reporters now? Why don't they know Miss Piggy anymore? Why don't they know? Why is the Electric Mayhem now living at the Happiness Hotel? Because they're playing parts. It's a movie, and they kind of set that with the opening song, "Hey, a Movie," which is kind of it's a clever, fun. As soon as the movie starts, they're breaking that fourth wall, and they're talking about, hey, it's starring everybody, it's starring me. It's so much fun. It's one of the kind of the key songs that I think they do it again at the end. But for me, that's kind of maybe the standout song. The Happiness Hotel one was another one I loved.
Yeah.
Which, if that's the Happiness Hotel, I'd hate to see the sad one.
Yeah, I would stay there every time. So I get the free room and board in London, and I hang out with Muppets. Mm-hmm. And what's the catch?
Well, the methods of payment are what? Cash, credit card, or sneak out in the middle of the night?
I don't think you'd get much sleep there, I bet. I don't think... But I would love that. I would love it.
That to me is the main difference as far as, we're not doing a Muppet story as far as, hey, I'm Kermit, this is Fozzie, this is how we met, and this is where we live, but this is the movie they made. It's a story, it's got a plot, they're saying how much action it's got, adventure, and it's strange. It's, it turns into a heist movie. It's also different in that we have humans playing major parts. Charles Grodin is kind of the main one that we're with. And one thing I didn't, maybe I wasn't as fond of this one being in other years, but it also sticks. There's scenes with no Muppets in it, where we have Charles Grodin and his sister, and or the other models, which we need to have a Muppet in there.
One of the models should have been a Muppet, in my opinion.
So that could have worked. I mean, we haven't got to Muppets from Space yet, but I just want to reference that quickly. I mean, we had our villain, and that was Jeffrey Tambor, but his sidekick was a Muppet.
Exactly.
We had Bobo the Bear, and that helps, just having that Muppet with them. But that was just one thing I noticed as a kid, or maybe I noticed now more, saying maybe it sets it apart there. Well, we have some time away from Muppets, and I just want that gang back together.
I would be harder on it if it wasn't such a charming, lovely, harmless kids movie. But I do feel like when you play that line, it messes with you a little bit. Like, as hilarious as it is that Kermit stops the scene to admonish Piggy for overacting in one of the scenes, right? Like, that's an hilarious meta moment, but it stops everything dead in its tracks, and it reminds the audience not to take anything seriously. And that's fine. Again, it's a magical, silly fantasy movie, but you usually get one or the other, right? You can either make the comment on the crime caper, or you can be the crime caper. It's really hard to be both.
And another moment that kind of slowed it down for me when I was a kid, anyways, I'm trying to review it as an adult here, but the movie stops for a bit during Piggy's number, where she does the water ballet, kind of the synchronized swim thing. I didn't like it as a kid. I wasn't a Miss Piggy fan, and that's
Miss Piggy sucks. I think I was talking about that earlier.
The movie stopped for a bit for me. Yeah, I've seen and the technical side of it, and I see like, geez, that's actually pretty impressive scene to shoot. You get all this synchronized swimming, and you have this puppet in there. There's a few times, Miss Piggy in particular, where I'm sure it's somebody wearing a Miss Piggy costume, where she's rollerblading. There's a moment at the top when she's doing the water ballet thing at the top where there's sparklers coming out, and it looks so strange because she's moving just differently, and it's kind of funny, and it's kind of awesome too. We talked about how movies change us, you and me, when we saw Kermit ride a bike.
Yeah.
In The Great Muppet Caper, you see the whole gang riding a bike at the same time. Miss Piggy and Kermit are riding a bike together. Not good enough. Kermit's doing stunts on the bike. He's standing on the handlebars. He's doing tricks. And then we see Scooter join. We see Floyd join. We see all these Muppets. It's like they just had to one-up it. And you know what? It looks amazing. I couldn't believe it.
It does look amazing. It's an incredible achievement. Like, they upped their game from Kermit on a bike by every standard, and yet it does not have the impact of Kermit riding that bike the first time. It was like the same thing we did before, but bigger. Yeah. Right? I'm again, it sounds like I'm talking shit about the Great Muppet Caper, and I am not. But
that's what sequels do.
Exactly. It's a very sequel move. It's like, what did they love in the first movie? Well, let's give them that times 10, because they'll love that even more, right? And they're not necessarily even wrong about it. It's just, it feels less creative. It feels like less of a wow moment in that respect.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think we would be impressed if it just showed Kermit riding a bike again. So you already did this, and so it's like, well, how about 6 Muppets riding a bike? You guys happy? You like that? That's pretty cool, right? and yeah, it is kind of cool. Still, maybe the next one, let's do 10 Muppets.
I fall back on me not being a big Miss Piggy fan, hurting that whole sequence as well. So
yeah, she's a bit of a swine, isn't she? But there's moments of this movie that save it, though, with some really good comedy. Again, with the running gags, vaudevillian kind of just groaning dad jokes. Like, we're going to catch those villains red-handed. And the punchline is...
You have red hands?
No. What color are their hands now?
Yeah, oh, yes, of course.
They say... I think they go back to, 3 times in the movie. It's just like, oh, my God. but it's... I still laugh. It's just kind of old... running gags, but
John Cleese giving a little performance that's so dry it could be a fire hazard.
Yes, that's a strange scene because it's really very dry. That's right. But now, I think maybe it's funnier now than it was then, because we know John Cleese and we know this is. It's like, what's that, dear? It's a pig climbing up the side of the building. They go on with their dinner. They're just bored with the whole thing. Just the stereotype stuffy British kind of couple. But
I always found it funny, but I don't think I ever fully understood it as a kid. Now I do. It's just like this perception of British people as being so detached and whatever, as to be unfazable. But when you're 6, that doesn't mean anything to you.
They have absolutely no spark in their marriage or in their life whatsoever.
And that's funny.
A frog and the pig in their... it is. They have a classic heist moment with, the bad guys doing the roll call of what they all have, right? It's like, okay, we got the grappling hook, check. You got the, this, check. Everything that you have for a big diamond heist. Then it cut to the Muppets. Whoopee cushion?
Yeah.
It's in the van. Silly putty? Oh, animal ate it, or whatever. And it goes on back and forth, like the Together heist versus our gang in the hell. And
it's still fun. It's still got our Muppets. I still love it. The magic is there. It's just it maybe does not leave me kind of in an odd space of respect. It's just like, this is another great Muppet movie. Thank you for it. If I was overpraising the Muppet movie, I don't want to overpraise the Great Muppet Caper. I do think that Muppet movie earns this. The Great Muppet Caper is a great family comedy by every stretch of the imagination, but the Muppet movie is on a different level. It just somehow is to me.
Oh, yeah, of course, in fairness. It's, yeah, for sure. I do want to do a shout-out to Janice.
Okay.
Of the Muppet Gang.
Yep.
She has a great moment in here where, everybody's talking at the same time, and then everybody stops talking.
She's still going.
Janice, and then you overhear the end of her sentence, and I think she's saying, talk about, that's why I said, Mom, if I were to live on a beach and walk around naked, that's up to me. And then she looks around in embarrassment, which is so funny, and they know it's funny because they go back to that in Muppets Take Manhattan Next, and I think kind of raise it a little bit again. But we'll talk about that then. But I thought it was a great Janice moment.
Well, that's a benefit of growing up with these characters. Like, when I watched the Dr. Teeth show with my kids, there's an episode where an animal has gone missing, and Dr. Teeth is being really blasé and whatever about it. And as a fan of the mayhem, I was really weirded out by this. And then finally Dr. Teeth just completely collapses and starts sobbing over the missing animal. And I was like, this is amazing. I actually laughed out loud. And like, my kids looked at me like I was crazy. But it was like, that is the appropriate reaction. Dr. Teeth would be devastated if Animal left. I know these characters. You know these characters. So we know when they're being used improperly. Yeah. I don't know what more to say about the Great Muppet Caper.
I don't think I have anything else to say about it other than one line that I've been using, and my wife doesn't even get it, probably why I say it, but, every now and then I will say, I got the paper towels, and if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But kind of a throwaway Muppet, Lou.
Yes.
Was it Lou Zealand? I never really was a big fan of him as a kid, but for some reason I'm finding him funnier now as an adult.
Yeah.
But he's got a couple of great lines in some of these movies, and that was one. And nobody brought anything for the heist except, they got their disguises, which are the Groucho Marx glasses. And did anybody bring anything to cut through the bars? I brought the paper towels. The only supply they brought was paper towels.
Well, that's another great compliment we should give the Muppets. There are no small characters, right? Like, Lou is a great character. Beauregard is a great character.
Oh, I love Beauregard.
From rewatching some of the old Muppet shows, what's the pig who stars in all the soap operas and in Pigs in Space? The male pig?
I know you mean. I don't think he has a name.
He's fucking hilarious. Like, he is so funny. Guy Smiley, the guy who'd always play the piano and ended up smashing his face against the keys. Like, there's no bad Muppet. There is no bad Muppet. Okay, well, there's Miss Piggy, but...
Yeah. There's Wayne and Wanda. They'll do a dance routine, and I'll see them in the background every now and then. But, yeah, they'll give each Muppet one moment at least, just to shine. Give them one really good line. Sam the Eagle, everybody. But they may not be main characters, but they're going to get a moment.
And the longer you stay with the Muppets, the more you learn to love all of them.
Jump on board for big-time fun.
What are we waiting for? Let's go to Broadway!
The Muppets are hitting the Big Apple.
Waffle Sacco's far out. Right on.
In search of their big break.
We sold the show. The producer wants to put it on Broadway. Come on, everybody!
New York City will never be the same.
Here we go!
together again.
They like it.
They love it.
Jim Henson's The Muppets Take Manhattan.
All right, Muppets Take Manhattan, 1984, directed by Frank Oz. Frank Oz would go on to direct Little Shop of Horrors, which is an amazing, amazing accomplishment. And he's got a legit director's cue of his own going on beyond this. But let me say something possibly controversial. I think Frank Oz is better at directing people than he is at directing Muppets. Dun, dun, dun! And maybe because he played Miss Piggy and he's invested in Miss Piggy, is because this became a really Miss Piggy-centric movie. But here are two reasons why I think this is the least good of the original era of the Muppet movies. It's over-reliant on the human characters. I mean, the non-celebrity human characters. They're actual players in the movie, which would be fine if they were more interesting than they actually are. And I think the pacing is off. This is the only Muppet movie that I watched out of this bunch that actually at times felt slow to me. There's a big third act wedding sequence between Kermit and Miss Piggy that I could really do without. And it made me think of, and this is the weirdest reference maybe I'll bring up today, Saturday Night Fever. They did a sequel to Saturday Night Fever, the John Travolta dancing one, where in the first one he's trying to make it in showbiz, and then the second one he goes to New York for Staying Alive, the sequel directed by Stallone. And everybody hated the sequel where he went to Broadway to break into Broadway because it was just like a pathetic retread of what had happened before. And it was a lame movie about dancing. This movie still has all of the Muppet charm in the world, and it's still definitely going for that beating heart. But because it was the only movie that I came close to being bored while I was watching, I don't think I could honestly say I was bored at any point, but I came close to it. I gotta take some points away from it. But when it works, it works. And there are some absolutely delightful moments sprinkled throughout. But I have more negative to say than any of the other movies we've talked about so far. Is that because I've watched too much Muppets in a concentrated area? Or is that because the weight of the world has crushed my spirit? Where have I gone wrong, Scott?
Well, let's start from the beginning. I think it starts really strong. From the opening credits on, I think it starts really well. There's a nice musical number, and then we find out our Muppets are in college, and they're all graduating college together. I guess that's happening now.
Yep.
And they decide to do a musical number for their college graduating class. And so Kermit, you should Broadway. Yeah, we should. Hey, that's not a bad idea. Let's try and do it. Kind of a funny scene. You got Animal yelling "woman" and chasing every woman out in the auditorium. We got the Muppets going to New York, which is funny in itself because they're Muppets. Let's go to big city New York. We already went to London. Let's go to New York next. They're living in lockers.
Yes, which I liked.
And they're trying to sell their play to a big-time Broadway producer. Everybody says no. And Kermit lashes out to the gang and feels the burden of being the leader. They never asked to be the leader. And they all just maybe Kermit off notice. Is the musical number saying goodbye? So essentially, I guess Kermit was the gang did a musical play for the graduating class of their college.
Yes,
right. And it was suggested that they take this show to Broadway. They say, yeah, let's take this to Broadway. And what I think works is the Muppet gang going to New York City. We've seen them in London. And now we're going to see them in New York. And New York is a different place for a Muppet. When Kermit says, all right, let's find a place to stay. Scooter, break out the quarters. And the next scene, they're all living in lockers, which is a great visual gag. Everyone's, talking at the same time again, living in the lockers. And Zoot's playing his saxophone. And Gonzo's got Camilla the chicken with him. It's kind of a fun time. And then they go about New York trying to sell the play. Everybody says no. Kermit then has a meltdown moment where he feels the burden of supporting the group, where he's the leader. I never asked for this. And the Muppets then decide maybe Kermit would be better off without us, and we should all go our own ways and leave him alone.
Yeah.
Which then, to me, I'm not trying to go over every moment of the movie, but at that point we have the song Saying Goodbye, which is a sad moment, I found, because all the Muppets that we want to be together always, every time all the Muppets are on the screen is the best parts of the movie. Right now, we're saying goodbye, and they're going away. Kermit and Piggy are saying goodbye. You got Scooter and Rolf are hugging, and Fozzie, and everybody's going their own way. The Electric Mayhem is going away. So that song touches me, and I just want to say that whenever family from out of town comes over and they're leaving, I have that song in my head. It's like, saying goodbye, why is it sad? It makes us remember the good times we had. But it's it's a sweet, really nice song.
That song is everything that is Muppets, really.
It is. But the problem that comes after that is we have 30, 40 minutes without the Muppets. We have Kermit now. We have Kermit's story. He meets Rizzo, which is good that we have Rizzo now.
That's important Muppet lore.
Miss Piggy comes back, I guess, because she's spying on Kermit because she doesn't trust him. So she's spying on him. But you're right. Then for the middle half part of the movie, we have Kermit and Miss Piggy for the most part, with a little bit of Rizzo comic relief. And that does hurt it a bit because I want the Muppets together. The more Muppets you fit on the screen, the more fun we're having. I want this ensemble. The Muppets need to be an ensemble. And it becomes a Kermit and Miss Piggy story for a long period. And yeah, you're right. There is it loses a little bit of magic then.
It feels smaller than the first two movies too. Like the Muppet movie, because we saw more of the Muppets and we saw them out in the real world, you could really feel that step from the TV to the big screen. And the Great Muppet Caper, again, making it like international and doing a heist picture with Muppets. Yay, fun. This feels more scaled back, almost down to TV again. Muppets did a lot of work on TV throughout the 80s and in the 70s they did TV specials. If you want to watch a crazy charming Jim Henson special, there's Emmett Otter's Woodband Christmas. Classic. But it feels more like their TV work than it does their movie work to me in this case. Which still means it's goddamn delightful, by the way. Because, if I'm talking anybody out of watching this movie, I want to stop right now. It is still a completely charming Muppet movie.
I do want to add that footnote by saying I still love this movie, and it tears me up numerous times. Well, probably a couple times. Anyway, the saying goodbye moment, and then you got the song Together Again, which they go back to again. It's just beautiful. Even the wedding is kind of nice. You see the Sesame Street gang, which was a fun surprise. All of a sudden, you got the bride side and the groom. There's the Sesame Street gang sitting all together. They're like, I almost think they're friends from work or something.
Yeah. But that was a much bigger deal to me when I was a kid than it is for me now.
But yeah, it's yeah, I do love the Muppet Steak Manhattan. I've gone back to it, numerous times. I don't want to sound, like you said, negative too much, but what we're trying to do here is, look at the whole thing. And sadly, there are parts where it drops a little bit. And then suddenly somebody does buy Kermit's play, which just seems convenient, and then it happens. Hey, we're opening in 2 weeks. It's like, what happened here?
That's what the movie should have been about. I think it should have been about the Muppets had a good show, but nobody wanted it. But we never really knew what the show was till it happened. And I think the third act, instead of being a Muppet wedding, which was maybe the thing I didn't want, should have been the Muppet Show. We've seen them make the journey from obscurity to Hollywood success to the stage to the creation of the Muppet Show. That seemed to be the logical progression. By the way, here's something to do with the Muppets. A live Broadway Muppet Show. Holy shit. take my fucking money. If there was, like, a touring show of the Muppets, like, that would just be a force of good in the world. It would be a way to keep the Muppet brand alive. They've done big stage productions with puppets before. Like, has been done. How about it? Can you imagine? Can you imagine going to take your granddaughter to see the Muppets live?
No. You know why? Because she would look at me and say, Grandpa, why are you crying?
Exactly.
It's because I'm so fucking happy, okay? But the thing about, like, you know, with the Muppets all going their separate ways, they send postcards to Kermit to update them what they're doing with their life, but it's just not the same, you know? And something you notice, somebody else pointed this out to me, and like, Fozzie doesn't really have a moment in this movie to be Fozzie.
Ever.
You know, just to be that funny, wisecracking bear. Gonzo's not the great Gonzo. He's just, they go away. And I think that's the biggest negative, is splitting up the gang. They do get back together, which leads to a great Janice moment again, as we alluded to last review. Even better. Everybody's, you know, they're hugging. Everyone's together again. And, hey, how you been? Hey, what you been doing with your time? But everyone's talking at the same time, and Miss Piggy's yelling, guys, quiet. Guys. Finally, everyone's quiet except Janice again. And what does she say? It's like, no, I'm not going to take my clothes off for anyone. I don't care if it is artistic. And then she's like, Janice, everybody. And Fozzie, I rewound it again. Fozzie looks at her and he's like, God bless Janice. She's a gem.
MVP, Janice. Is there anything else you want to say about the Muppets Take Manhattan?
Just that we lose a lot of the ensemble times.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have an ending.
Kermit
gets amnesia. Movie amnesia. And movie amnesia is when you get hit on the head, you forget everything, who you are and everything, and you don't remember anything else again until you get hit on the head again. And that's movie amnesia.
Yep.
Because once you get hit on the head again, oh, now I remember everything. Hey, Kermit, do you remember the opening number? And he sings. And then all of a sudden they're in the Broadway play. Somebody's getting married, the wedding happens, and it's the end. It's like, oh, was that? There's no ending to the movie.
No.
That's the ending. So I agree. It loses some points for certain reasons. But I love the way the movie makes me feel overall.
It's still a Muppet movie, damn it. And it's still like golden age Muppet movie. So I put us in the position to have to say negative things about the Muppets. That shit's on me.
Yeah.
That shit's on you.
The mothership is calling me home.
The mood is tense. My hair looks great.
Talk loud.
Let's go get Gonzo.
Rescue me and take me in your...
I'm the alien.
This guy's a freak show. Oh, I'm gonna hurl.
Columbia Pictures and Jim Henson Pictures.
Now, who went and put too much gunpowder in the cannon?
Take you where no Muppet has gone before.
This is Miss Piggy with a UFO alien exclusive. What? Hello?
This is my story.
There he is.
Whoa.
Celebrate good times, come on!
Muppets from Space.
No nostrils. How do you smell?
Awful. Trust me, I'm his roommate.
Muppets from Space, 1999. Muppets.
A little piece of Scott's Basement trivia.
Yeah.
This is my copy of Muppets from Space. Can you see that?
It looks like Muppet Treasure Island.
It does, but when you open it, I got it from Value Village. When you open it up, it had Muppets from Space in it.
Can I ask you a question? Is it widescreen or full screen?
It's full screen.
Yeah, mine too.
And then when you take Muppets from Space out, it has Muppet Treasure Island behind it.
Weird. Oh, well.
So that was a Value Village score for
$3
or whatever.
Treasure Island full screen as well? For some reason...
I actually just got it.
For some reason, Muppets from Space and Muppet Treasure Island I've only ever seen available full frame, and it irritates me. Muppets from Space is directed by Tim Hill, and it's become this cultural punching bag. everyone talks about how terrible Muppets from Space is, and how, like, it's a sign that your career is in the toilet if you're in a Muppet movie, and oh my god, Jim Henson is gone, and they made the worst Muppet. Muppets from Space gets it bad, and it fucking infuriates me, Scott. It fucking infuriates me, because here's the thing.
Have you started recording?
Oh yes, we're recording. Muppets from Space not only still has the Muppet magic, but it kind of took some pretty bold steps. For the first time, we're not having original songs. We're using an entirely funk soundtrack, which is amazing. Like, it's such a good soundtrack, and I kind of bought it right away when we opened in the Muppet household and all the Muppets are living together. First thing in the morning, they're playing some funky music, they're dancing, and they're starting their day. Completely credible to me within the Muppet universe. And if this is how every day is in the Muppet household, right away, I want to live in this world. I love this world. The great Gonzo, and this is my bias going in, I was always a big fan of Gonzo and his stunts on the show. Like, I always thought he was hilarious. I thought that he had this weird perverted attraction to chickens was hilarious. I thought that all of his stunts failed. Yeah. He was sort of like the Super Dave Osborne of the Muppets. Like, he would always do stunts, but they would always go disastrously wrong. But whereas all the other Muppets, even the monsters, they were defined. They're monsters. Kermit's a frog, Ralph's a dog, Fozzie's a bear. Gonzo doesn't know what he is, and he's never known what he is. He's just Gonzo the Great. And a quiet sort of search for his identity, not in any real serious way, has sort of been there the whole time. And, they finally decide to address it with Muppets from Space. By the time this movie came out, I'm, I think 20 or, in my 20s, and probably too old to be getting excited about a Muppet movie. But I was frequenting the local cheap theater quite often at the time, because a $2 movie is a $2 movie. And there was a poster up of Gonzo floating in a beam of light. Stars all around him. And the caption read, "The greatest Muppet trip ever." And I thought, you sly bastards.
And then cut to Larry opening his wallet saying, "How much do you guys want?
Just take my fucking money." But they were advertising both to the kids and the stoners in the audience, right?
Yeah.
Gonzo in a shaft of light, the greatest Muppet trip ever. I think this movie, in a very concentrated measure, more than any other Muppet movie, wants to entertain the adults as much as the kids. Now, maybe some of the kids would find that disappointing. Maybe some of the humor goes a little maybe over their heads at times. But for me, it made me... It reasserted my love for the Muppets. It didn't make me doubt it at all. I've always really loved Muppets from Space more than maybe I should. And I will never stop defending it. Please stop talking shit about Muppets from Space. It's hilarious. It's a really funny Muppet movie. It might not be the most heartfelt Muppet movie, but it's close to the most hilarious for me. So I'm a big fan of Muppets from Space, and I am tired of all the shit it's been taking.
Wow. The gloves are off.
Gloves off.
It was interesting to have a Gonzo movie because, Gonzo, he's always been kind of shit on by, by the other Muppets. Not maybe, well, by Piggy for sure, but then again, that's Piggy. Because, like you said, Fozzie's a bear, Kermit's a frog, Gonzo's I think they says he's a whatever.
Yeah.
Right? And then sometimes they said he's kind of just a weirdo. And but there's so many parallels to maybe the way the world is right now. I noticed a lot just almost with the gender thing, but just the identity, I guess, just who are you and what are you, and just the way he said, I'm not sure what I am. And
all of the Muppets are outsiders, but Gonzo is an outsider among them.
There's a moment in the movie where he says, "I didn't choose to be this way, but I've always had alien tendencies," which is so on the nose with queer stuff, really. I mean, it's so identified with that. Like, hey, I don't fit in. I'm kind of different. I'm not sure what I am, but there's something different about me. I'm trying to explore and find out who I am. I really got a lot of that out of this. I'm not sure if that was intentional back when this movie was made, but watching it nowadays with this being, so front and center, it's quite there. So, I mean, going back to the original Muppet movie, when the van breaks down, they're stranded. Kermit has a little moment with himself, and he almost sees like a reflection of himself that he talks to. And he's like, I didn't ask to be the leader. I just, I've got all these people I met. I met a frog, or I met a bear and a chicken and a pig and whatever Gonzo is. And he says, like, I'm not sure what he is. He's kind of like a turkey. And then his reflection says, yeah, kind of a turkey, but
I don't know.
Not really. Not really, no. And it's never really addressed. It's just like, and so he goes, we got bears and chickens and frogs and whatever Gonzo is. So you're right. It's like, we need a new Muppet movie. Let's explore some Gonzo. And I love Gonzo. So he's a weirdo. I mean, he is. Muppet movie, when they pick him up, Fozzie says, we picked up a weirdo. And I love that moment because he's so weird.
He's
like,
very weird.
We need more things like exploding socks. Like, he just like random weird things that don't make sense. And if you were to look at my Disney Plus profile, my profile avatar picture is Gonzo.
Mine happens to be Pepe.
There you go. And my wife is Janice. So there's many to choose from on Disney Plus. I'm Gonzo, she's Janice. That's who we are. So I definitely am on board with the weirdo.
Yeah.
So we got that. It was a very interesting thing. Unlike you, though, I missed the original songs. I thought that's a key part of the Muppet movies, is having something to kind of snap your fingers to and to bring a smile to your face. Yes, they do Brick House. They do Celebration. But instead of Celebration, when we meet Gonzo's alien family, I would have loved a Muppet song.
Right. Something
that they wrote just that we could remember and tie to that movie forever. When I think of Celebrate Good Times, Come On, I'm not going to think of Muppets from Space. I'm going to think of that song. I think that's... Actually, do you mind if I share like the biggest missed opportunity with this moment, with this movie? Bringing back Gonzo's song from the original Muppet movie. I'm going to go back there someday.
Right.
That would have been just fucking beautiful. Because at that moment, when the van breaks down, he's off by himself. It's a great song from the Muppet movie. And you're not really sure, maybe going back, what it means. But he's commenting. There's so much stuff laid down that he's from somewhere else. He's looking at the stars and he's talking, wow, there's so many stars out there, and everyone's talking about something else. All Gonzo is talking about is the stars. And he does that song, I'm going to go back there someday. I think it would have been brilliant if Muppets from Space took a cue from that and kind of brought that song back in some fashion. I thought that would have been excellent and genius. But
and that might be more emotionally strong at the end than Celebration. On that level, I agree with you. I think I felt
like the whole movie, though, I was waiting for that moment to come, where just like a musical cue from it. Maybe not the whole song, but a theme or something just in the background. But that's what I wanted, but I didn't get it.
I like the funk soundtrack, but I wasn't expecting it, and just seeing the Muppets dance to funk music was just highly pleasing to me. I don't know. I guess I'm a man of simple tastes, but I will confess to being kind of struck and close to moved in something as ridiculous as Muppets from Space with the support that Gonzo gets from his Muppet friend. Like when he first starts getting the messages, they all think he's crazy and being Gonzo, but Kermit is there for Gonzo 100%. He is like this amazing friend that everybody wants to have. There's a scene where they're on the bus, they've rescued Gonzo from being experimented on by the evil governments, and he still wants to go to the beach, and everybody else on the bus is like, seriously, Gonzo? Except for Kermit. Kermit's like, you know what, Gonzo? You want to go to the beach? Let's go to the beach. And I swear to God, in the theaters in 1999, that shit moved me. this ridiculous puppet movie. I was like, Kermit, you are still amazing. You are such a good dude. Over above this, I don't want to pretend that this is a highly emotional movie either, because it's a hilarious movie. High points to the duo of Rizzo the Rat and Pepe the King Prawn. They have like some of the best lines in this entire movie. Or some of the actors that show up in cameo roles. I've always loved that Ray Liotta showed up in a couple. He showed up in a couple of Muppet movies. You gotta know he was there because he wanted to be there, right? And he's amazing. He's amazing. It's a very funny movie. I think when we were talking about Muppets Made Manhattan, that was the other thing about that experience watching it. I didn't laugh out loud very much watching Muppets Take Manhattan. I laughed out loud constantly watching Muppets from Space.
Yeah, and you're right. I wrote down Ray Liotta. He was the best cameo, I think. I loved him because he was the security guard. He's not going to let anybody on this base.
Certainly not Muppets.
But I think it goes back to the ensemble thing. They were an ensemble again. They're saying no Muppet gets left behind, and then Fozzie says, like, hey, didn't we forget Honeydew and Beaker at the gas station? Okay, starting now, no Muppet gets left behind.
Hilarious, though. Hilarious.
My ass off. So Dr. Bunsen Honeydew has created so many gadgets for this mission, including the sudden door or instant door,
but it's too small.
But there's also that spray that makes you forget everything. And that's what they use on Ray Liotta's character.
He just does whatever he's like, told.
Yeah, and it's such a hilarious moment because come on in, have a good time, you guys. I hope you have a great day. He just lets him on.
Bye, nice man. Bye.
Yeah, I laughed actually quite loud at that scene. And Fozzie gets to be Fozzie again, which we missed in Manhattan. We're wearing invisible spray. Thank you, Honeydew. So we got invisible spray, but Fozzie has to go to the bathroom, to the little bear's room. And, of course, he washes his hands.
So his hands are...
So he comes out, and all you see is Fozzie's hands, and Mom said no exception. These are the moments I love of my Muppets. They're being funny again. That's it.
Like, when they disguise themselves as doctors, so there's like 3 different Muppets inside a doctor's uniform. 2 doctors standing in the hallway. Doctor? Like, that is never gonna not be funny to me. Like, that shit is amazing. Jeffrey Tambor just killing it as this villain. A lot of people, they end up in a Muppet movie. They figure like maybe this is not good for their career, but I really feel like Jeffrey Tambor was there to give this performance and be all he could be for these Muppets. David Arquette plays a mad scientist who's experimenting on Gonzo. And I don't know, like, the Muppets are still the stars, but all of those cameos are delicious. And the friendly bear that's supposed to be the bad guy's sidekick to Tambor, I just fell in love with him. He was apparently introduced in Muppets Tonight, which is a show I'm not super familiar with. But I love the size of that bear puppet and how there's nothing mean in him. He works for the bad guys, but he's just like the sweetest person.
Yeah. And that's what I said. Like, if he would have been one of Charles Grodin's henchmen, that would have been great. But yeah, get him up in your scene. I loved Bobo. He's been in a couple things where he's been good. You mentioned Pepe the Prawn.
Yes.
And it's funny because he's become, like, over the years, one of the main Muppets now, and very funny, like, all the time. Like, Rizzo had a moment where he was in a lot of movies almost as Gonzo's go-to sidekick, and they became close, or roommates or whatever. Well, actually in Muppets from Space, this one, they were roommates, weren't they? It's like they were checking out Gonzo's nose. You don't have any nostrils. Well, how do you smell? And Rizzo says, awful. Trust me, I'm his roommate. But again, bad jokes, but still funny because it's a bad joke.
Even easy jokes, like there's a scene where Jeffrey Tambor grabs Gonzo by the nose and just twists it, and it comes back, and Gonzo says, "Thanks." I don't know why that's so funny to me, but that's so funny to me. Or when
I just
aliens are trying to get his attention, so they're writing "Are you there?" all over the world, except for in one case where they wrote "Are you 3?" because it was a spelling mistake.
It is a funny movie, and yeah, not all Muppet movies need to make us feel emotions and cry. It's neat that they can do that, that they can get us at that level. But if you're make us laugh too, because your Muppets are funny characters.
When Miss Piggy froze on live TV, that was one of the first genuine laughs that I got out of Miss Piggy when she wasn't hurting somebody. Like, they cut to the camera, she gets her big thing on the desk, and she freezes. She just freezes. She can't say anything, and she can't move. And it's like Miss Piggy showed a vulnerability, and it was funny. I don't know, this movie gets a bad rap, dude.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you on one thing, where you said kind of if you're in a Muppet movie, it means something bad's happening to your career.
Some people look at it that way.
If you look back, what's that?
Some people seem to look at it that way. They wouldn't lower themselves to do the Muppets.
I think people are dying to be in a Muppet movie. When I was a kid, I remember I thought, like, my goal in life was to be a special guest star
in the Muppets, for sure.
As a kid. Like, and if you look at the cameos that they started out with in the Muppet movie, and then Great Muppet Caper, and it goes on, almost to the last Muppet movie, where it's almost overkill. We have a cameo every time you look in the screen and in the background. Everybody wants to just say, I was in a Muppet movie. I think it's like a badge. It's like being in the MCU. It's like, dude, I was in a Muppet movie. I shared a screen with Kermit the fucking Frog.
Or having your voice on The Simpsons or something like that. It's just like a badge of honor.
Yeah, I think it's something to be proud of by saying, hey, you know what? I have a scene with Fozzie. That's.
I would be proud of it. You know, The Simpsons made fun of it, like Troy McClure starring in Muppets Goes Medieval. I would watch the shit out of Muppets Go Medieval, by the way.
Oh yeah, for sure.
One more thing, even though we're 18 minutes into this review on Muppets from Space, there's a joke where Gonzo's strapped into a table, and Rizzo's trying to chew through the straps to free him, and David Arquette is playing this mad scientist. And he sees movement under the blanket, he flips the blanket over, and we see Rizzo leaned over the midsection of Gonzo with his head bobbing. And he says, "Oh, excuse me," and then he covers him up again. What is that if not a blowjob joke?
That's exactly what you think it is. Yeah, I did forget that.
Like, that was pushing it pretty far, you guys.
Yeah, I think that got them the PG rating, didn't it?
But I'm a fan. I'm unabashedly on board for Muppets from Space. Is there anything else you want to say about Muppets from Space?
No, I think we're aligning pretty close here.
Leave it with the blowjob.
We're trying to get the old gang back together again.
We haven't done this in a long time.
Your fans never left you. The world hasn't forgotten.
Sure, it's impossible, but we've got to try. It's time to play the music.
It's time to light the lights.
It's time to meet the Muppets.
Yes! Come on, guys, let's go! Wow, I can't believe we're all back together. Yeah!
Sorry, I was super excited.
The Muppets have always been about artistic integrity, not cheap tricks.
Check it out. Fart shoes.
This is going to be a really short movie.
Oh, look, what's that over there?
Oh, what?
So, there was a dark period, some would argue, for the Muppets after the death of Jim Henson. His son took over the enterprise. They released 2 movies, Elmo and Grouchland, which I don't know that I've ever seen, and Muppets from Space, both of which were so disastrously unsuccessful that they ended up selling to Disney. There was some TV specials and other things that they did in the interim as well. But like it or not that they went to Disney, the Muppet Christmas Carol and Muppet Treasure Island were much more successful ventures, mainly because they had that apparatus of Disney around to help shove it down people's throats the way that they will. But it seemed like for a while they kind of slipped under the radar. We hadn't heard from the Muppets in a while. And then a fan, maybe a fan who loved the Muppets almost as much as you and I, by the name of Jason Segel, decided, you know what? I just finished my contract on an incredibly lucrative sitcom, and I'm in the position where I can do whatever the fuck I want. And you know what I want? I want to do a Muppet movie. If I ever meet that dude, I'm going to full-on hug him. I might be tackled by security, but dude, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Because although he didn't write it, he wasn't the guiding, necessarily creative light of this, I don't believe this movie would have happened without him. And he got the right crew together. He got the right people together to make this movie. The director is named, James Bobbin. He'll do this and the Muppets Most Wanted. Has the tone absolutely perfect. And hiring Britt McKenzie from the Flight of the Conchords to write the songs was genius. Genius. The music and songs in this are absolutely top drawer. I don't think it beats the original Muppet movie for pound for like emotional weight, but as far as for being energetic and feeling appropriate for the Muppets, Britt McKenzie just absolutely 100% nailed it. All of our Muppet friends are back, and they do a thing that a lot of these late sequels do that I tend not to like, where we find that all of the people that we've loved for all these years have been miserable. They do it like with, the new Indiana Jones or like the new Nouveau, whatever. A lot of the times it finds that our hero, John McClane has always broken up with his wife when we catch up with him. He's always on the skids. He's always in terrible positions. And I don't think we want to think that all of our Muppet friends, as much as they're beloved, have spent the last decade suffering. But this movie is impossible to take in that kind of serious measure because it's so busy having fun. It's so busy bringing the band back together in a way that will be satisfying for both new and old fans. That I think you might not like it as much as I do, but if you don't find some entertainment value from this movie, I am suspicious of you or worried for you. Like, this movie is just aggressively entertaining. Does it have a scene like Kermit riding a bike that absolutely blows my mind? No, not in that extent. But Chris Cooper raps in this movie. Chris Cooper of Breach and Adaptation and The Bourne Identity fucking raps in this movie, and it's hilarious. I took my boys to see this in the theater, and I'd introduced them to The Muppet Show because I'm a responsible parent. And when it got to the point where they were doing the live version of The Muppet Show and the Muppet Show theme came on, my son was smiling so much I thought his face was going to fucking tear. He was so happy, and I was so vicariously happy for him and with the movie that I have absolutely nothing bad to say about this movie. I will not say anything bad about the Muppets. And it is a nouveau Muppets for the young generation, but made by somebody who knows exactly who the Muppets are and exactly how to use them. I couldn't be more happy with this new Muppet movie. Talk me down.
Fuck, Larry, I love you, man. I love you. Jason Segel gets a free pass from me because of this movie. It's like, dude, I didn't know you were me.
That's right.
That kind of feel, because he's one of the I think there were two writers on it, so he had a large part in getting this movie done. So I mean, I believe that he was, as far as writing, he didn't do the songs, but yeah, this was his baby.
And he aggressively campaigned to get Amy Adams to do the movie. He aggressively apparently campaigned to get Jack Black to do the movie. He made this shit happen, right?
And this is where you see, like we talked about before, the cameos. Everybody wants to be in a Muppet movie. Like
right.
This is cool. And man, this was made by a fan. Like you could tell he loves the Muppets. It's not just just another movie. He talks about them like we do.
Yeah.
Like these were something. Muppets are special to him, and that's I think where we come from. They're just not a movie. These Muppets are special to us. And he really made us feel that. And yeah, some of the Muppets over time have been down on their luck. I think more so they've been forgotten by time. And I could see that because time has passed. Time hasn't been kind. Some of the movies have been kind of pushed to the wayside.
Yeah.
This was really what brought them back. And man, I think I like your son, when they redid the Muppet Show intro and they had the same large oversized Muppets in the first frame walking in the same way, like they reenacted it. Hearing that again, I thought my face would rip. It's that smile was that big. The songs, Life's a Happy Song,
my
is
God,
one of the happiest fucking songs of all time. I got that on a playlist when I just need that little burst of joy. It is just so good and cheerful and fully Muppety. And it's sung by Jason Segel and a new Muppet that we just met just now. But the way they open that movie, they're watching the Muppet Show on a big, floor model TV, like we grew up watching. And right there, like this is made by somebody with love for this project. Yeah. And with nostalgia. They hit all those notes, like the Electric Mayhem van or the bus, and it's all kind of dirty now over time, and the Muppet Studios kind of is all forgotten and dusty, and I just everything they touch on this I just love. Front to back, you mentioned the songs. Pictures in My Head is another one where Kermit just talks about his old friends and how he misses them, and now they're just pictures in my head. It's like, it's so beautiful. I love this movie so much.
Am I a man or am I a Muppet? Jesus
Man
Christ.
or Muppet, yeah.
The songs are kind hilarious. Of amazing. Like,
I kind of but I said something negative about The Great Muppet Caper, where we had moments without enough Muppets in it.
Right.
We have a lot of stuff with Amy Adams and Jason Segel, but yet I forget. I don't fault this movie for that, because Jason Segel is an honorary Muppet. I mean,
Gary,
the way he acts in the movie, it's like he belongs. It's okay. He's gonna stand in the background, but when he's center stage, he's almost, he looks like a Muppet kind of. He's got a weird Muppety face. Actually,
he's got a weird vibrating kid energy, and he has a dopey smile on his face at all times. Part of that is the character of Gary, but I also honestly think part of that is just Jason being that happy to be working with the Muppets that he just has a legitimate dopey smile on his face. Like, how could you not smile if you were doing a scene with Kermit the Frog? Like, it would be impossible, right?
If we found out years from now that one of Jason's parents was a Muppet, yeah. I don't think we'd be surprised. It's like, oh, okay, I didn't realize his mom was a penguin Muppet or something.
Sorry, what's the name of our new Muppet? I'm totally blanking on...
Walter.
Walter, thank you. Gary and Walter grew up together. It's not clear if they're just brothers or if Walter was adopted or whatever, but Walter's clearly a Muppet and Gary is not. But Gary has a lot of Muppet characteristics, and Walter has a lot of human characteristics, and that's kind of an interesting sort of thing that they did there. They're just, the whole world too is also, it doesn't just accommodate the Muppets. It's like the whole world is silly and strange. That entire song and dance number you talk about at the beginning of the town is like, the entire town is participating almost against their will in this music number, it seems like. And when they finally leave town, everybody relaxes and unclenches and like, oh, thank God. The fact that Amy Adams is teaching the kids how to, like, rebuild an engine block in the class. Like, everything about the world is absurd, and there's Muppets, right? Nice choice, just fill it out. Let it be as goofy as it needs to be, Yeah,
it's a beautiful movie. It's similar to the Muppet movie in the way that we're almost being reintroduced to everybody one at a time.
Get the band back together.
So
yeah.
almost it's rebooting the franchise, I guess. So, what is it? The Muppet Studio is going to be torn down by the evil oil baron.
Yeah.
Unless Muppets are able to get together and raise $10 million, which, in the end, they weren't even close, which was kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
But,
I actually feel better now.
Yeah. They were at like $9,997 or something like that, and then they bump it and they realize it was a decimal or a comma, and it's like, oh, we weren't even close. but it's great because we go get the band back together, as you said, and we're gonna go. Let's go get Fozzie. Let's go get Gonzo, and let's see what everybody's been up to. And hey, they realize again, breaking the fourth wall like we used to do is so much fun with these guys, and. They said, well, we don't have enough time in the movie to meet everybody. We better do a montage. And do a montage. And one of my favorite moments is from Rolf the dog when he says, hey, you didn't put my moment in the montage. That was a really interesting story. And they do a flashback to it. They just woke him up on a hammock and say, hey, Rolf, want to come back together? Yeah, sure. And
That's
and
it.
then he laughs. Classic.
But that's so Ralph, though. That's Rolf the dog. That is absolutely on point. Like, I love it. Like, we know these characters really well, and so do the people. Like, if a different writing team was doing this, the Muppets would say things that would be off-brand or off-character. One of the things that saddened me, I learned about Frank Oz was not a big fan of this. And he just didn't feel like the Muppets were behaving like themselves, and took to issue Fonzie, which is one of the characters that he would work, using fart shoes. First of all, I hate to tell somebody who's been working on the ground floor of the Muppets and actually created a character that I know a character better than he does. But not only have whoopee cushions been referenced by name in the past in the Muppets, but yes, I do think Fozzie the Bear would think whoopee cushions were fucking hilarious. And so does anybody who ever loved Fozzie the Bear. I really feel like it was a little bit of sour grapes with Frank Oz talking shit about this movie. Because it's a good movie. And as a full-blooded, lifelong Muppet fan, it's better than the Muppet movie he directed. And maybe he knows that. And maybe that's where that's coming from.
And, well, the fart shoes, I mean, yeah, the fart shoes are funny because it's a Fozzie thing.
Yeah.
But especially once they realize they're not going to raise the money to save the theater, and they're walking out all sad, and you hear us, Fozzie, not now. Not the fart shoes. It was just wrong time and place. It's like, it's a sad moment, but it was funny. Man, this, and the cat, so there's, I guess we got to address the cameos in here. There's everybody. This is when you realize like everyone was coming out of the woodwork saying, "I love the Muppets. Just give me something to do." And if you cut my scene, give me like a small scene in the sequel or something. One that I always thought was funny was Zach Galifianakis as Hobo Joe.
Right.
I'm not sure why I thought it was funny. He's just Hobo Joe. He's in the audience watching the Muppets telethon.
And they kidnap Jack Black to become king of the hobo people or something.
Well, that's right. We need a celebrity guest because the Muppet Show has to have a celebrity guest. And they said, hey, we can get Jack Black because he was Animal's sponsor for his anger management.
Another great scene.
But, I mean, we have so many celebrities in here that want to be cameos. There's a scene in there where they start taking calls for the telethon. And you got John Krasinski in there. He has no lines, and the camera just kind of scans over him. You wouldn't even know. It's, hey, wait, isn't that? But that's it. And then in the very back, you got Judd Hirsch.
Yeah.
I believe, who is it?
Let's see. Let's just say it out. We had Alan Arkin, Bill Cobb, Zach Galifianakis, Ken Jeong, of course, Jim Parsons, Eddie Pepitone. I love that guy. Kristen Schaal, Sarah Silverman. They're listing everybody except for the dude I was talking about. Donald Glover has a cameo in this movie.
Neil Patrick Harris,
Emily Blunt, James Carville.
Yeah.
And most of them, like you say, are just on the phone for 2 seconds.
Yeah, so there's a moment when Neil Patrick Harris is on screen and he's taking a call and he says, "Yeah, no, I don't know why I'm not hosting this. I know," because he's a Disney guy, he loves the Muppets, but it scans really crowded. And I said John Krasinski, you got Judd Hirsch in the background, where if you didn't own a widescreen TV, you wouldn't even see these guys. They're in the corner. They just get me on there for a second. It's a total love fest for Muppets, and I appreciate it for what it is. It hits all the cues. The characters that you've grown to love all have a moment to shine, and that's what we want. Everything. It's an ensemble. You got the songs, you got the jokes, and you got the feels too.
I will say, unlike the Muppet movie, I can maybe pick one thing to just pick at a thread, just to do my due diligence as a critic. The movie really doesn't have an ending. The Muppet Telethon fails. They go outside, but the crowd's still there. The people still love him. The Muppet Theater might be lost, but the love for the Muppets is still there. And then during the credit sequence, they mention that the evil oil baron changed his ways, signed the Muppet Studio back over to them. It's not even a plot point that happens during the actual film, because it matters so little to them. Keeping us happy, respecting the world of the Muppets, and just giving us that feeling of the first movie was a bigger priority than telling a story that had a beginning, middle, and end. And I'm only saying it because I'm just saying I noticed it. It's still an excellent Muppet movie. Everything I could have wanted when I went to the theaters. Because I have to say, Scott, if I went to the new Muppet movie and I came out of there and I felt that they dropped the ball, I would have taken it personally. Ouch.
Well, I think, there's no way I could have expected to get that much joy out of it.
Right.
It was way better than maybe we deserved or could expect. And I think that's because it was handled with love. And that, to me, it's every time I watch this, I just feel like it's made by people that respect the characters and respect what's come before it and truly love it. And if somebody that loves a franchise is going to make something, I know that it's going to be in good hands.
Yeah. Because, I don't know, imagine even people I like. Let's say Seth MacFarlane got his hands on the Muppets, right? And all of a sudden, Fozzie Bear became a legitimately funny shock comic. It would be just not the Muppets. Maybe it would be funny, but it would be a betrayal of the world of the Muppets. And that hasn't happened. Not in this movie at all. They honored the Muppets. High praise for everyone involved. I would buy a beer for anybody involved.
I agree. Whenever this movie's over, the next day I go to work. I'm still feeling good because I'm driving to work thinking
Life's
I've
a
got
happy
everything
song.
I need. It's I got everything I need standing right in front of me. I love the way this movie makes me feel.
I love that. It's Jason Segel steps into the classroom still singing the song. Right in front of me. Oh, sorry, I was just really excited about the song. And Jason Segel, you can tell he's not a great singer and he's not a great dancer, but he's doing a Muppet movie, and that's part of the deal about doing a Muppet movie. And I love him for it. I have so much... You know what? Truth be told, I never watched his sitcom. I've only ever seen his work in movies. So, in a lot of ways, this was sort of an introductory thing for me in this guy. And, yeah. Thank you,
Well,
sir.
Isn't his previous movie to this, was it Forgetting Sarah Marshall, where he goes full frontal?
That's right. Was that right before this?
I think so. And he has a big puppet sequence in it where his goal is to do the vampire puppet love story.
That's right. I'd forgotten about that.
The Dracula story. And so you can see right there that's just is this his way of saying, I'm going to do the next
And he wrote that movie, too. It's been a long time since I've seen that one, but, yeah.
But it's funny seeing him in a Muppet movie saying, didn't we see your dick a couple of years ago? I think we saw your dick.
Is that the guy from Saving Sarah Silverman? I know I'd have to see his cock, but is there anything else you want to say about the Muppets?
Just that I love it.
Agreed.
look, it's Constantine, the world's most dangerous frog.
Check this out.
Oh, look, it's Kermit.
Ah!
Oh, what did you do with Kermit?
There must be some mistake. I'm Kermit the Frog. I'm not Constantine.
You're going to be here a while.
Hi-ho, Kermit the Frog here.
Kermit the Frog here. I am Kermit, and now you guys have all the freedom you want.
What? When do I do the indoor running of the bulls?
I can't watch.
Dominic, international tour manager.
Dominic, bad guy?
Bad G.
It's French.
The Muppets Most Wanted is actually a pretty fair corollary to The Great Muppet Caper to me, in that it's obviously not as great as The Muppets, the movie that preceded it directly, but it's still super solid. The band's back together. Now we're putting them on another adventure involving another heist, as it turns, and they're going to constantly be reminding you not only that this is a movie, but this is a sequel. The opening number is all about the fact that this is a sequel. We made money and we're going to come back for more. We're chumming the waters. And in a lot of other contexts, we might resent them for being so open about it. But when you bring the goods, you bring the goods. And the essential ingredients that were there for the Muppets sort of reboot in 2011 are all still present. The main new additions are Tina Fey and Ricky Gervais, both of which are Muppet fans, and both of which you wouldn't think necessarily would fit comfortable in the Muppet universe, but they do, completely. Especially Ricky Gervais, he's sort of a little bit of a, not exactly a shock comic, but more of an adult comic in the way he approaches how he gets laughs from people. So I wasn't sure how he was going to mesh with the Muppet world, but no, he's a really good number 2 in this movie. Two little nitpicky things I will say. I think I wanted more Walter. I think since we had an entire movie bringing Walter into the fold in the previous edition, I expected Walter to have something to do in the second one, even if it was... But he was there, he was present, that was it. He was present and that was all, really. Again, this is me looking hard to try to find things to be critical of. The whole conceit of the movie is about Kermit is replaced by this evil genius, another frog who has a wart. He paints over the wart, and he does this terrible Kermit impression that every Muppet absolutely hooks in on, like hook, line, and sinker. With the exception of Animal, which I appreciated. Animal sees through him the whole time. Bad frog.
Bad frog.
And as much as I enjoyed the premise that none of the Muppets, noticed that Kermit had changed at all, another part of me was, genuinely disappointed in all of them. Like, seriously, you guys? Kermit has just been nothing but a source of pure support and love and goodness to you guys. And when his entire countenance changes completely, none of you give a shit because you're getting what you want all of a sudden? I don't know, it just seemed a little darker than I wanted my Muppets to go. It's buoyed by the fact that it's hilarious. It is hilarious.
It's like, because he introduces himself every time he meets his friends. He says, "Hello, everybody. I am Kermit the Frog."
Kermit.
It almost sounds like a Borat doing a bad Kermit impression.
That's right.
It's just the way they buy it each and every time is. I think it's hilarious. He calls them Muppets. He mispronounces Fozzie. He calls them Fonzie. And that's my favorite thing. It's just you guys are that stupid, really? Because he's got a green bump on his cheek.
Miss Piggy, the love of your life? Seriously? I felt so bad for Kermit. Oh my god, they really don't appreciate you at all, and have never appreciated you at all.
Because dude, this is, guys, Fozzie, this is your best friend. Nobody. He says, "I have a cold." Oh, well, he's got a cold. That's why he sounds different. Yeah, but I mean,
That's not really a complaint. Like, I set it up as if it was like that. If I'm looking for things to complain about, I'm hurt on behalf of Kermit, and I would have liked to see more Walter. But if that's the worst thing I can say about Muppets Most Wanted, I think we're in pretty good place. Like, the song that they do in the interrogation sequence, I think is amazing. When they go through all the suspects and all the Muppets in song, like, well done.
Oh yeah.
And the whole side story with Sam the Eagle and, what is his name? Ty Burrell? Two characters who on their face would be, like, humorless and unlikable and not funny actually walk away with a large portion of the laughs in the movie. Like, they're awesome. Sam the Eagle is, like, the ultimate straight man in the world of the Muppets. Like, all of this silliness and all of this craziness is going on, and I'm trying to bring some decorum to the world of the Muppets. Well, good fucking luck, Sam. Good luck.
See, I didn't personally love that portion myself.
Oh, no?
Sam the Eagle and Ty Burrell as well. I'm not sure what it was. I think it's because why is now Sam the Eagle is part of the CIA? But this is a direct sequel that picks up immediately after the end credits of 2011's The Muppets, in which Sam the Eagle is part of The Muppets. He does a musical number doing the barbershop quartet in The Muppets. So why now is he not part of The Muppets? Why does he not know these guys? I don't know. That I thought was kind of strange.
Well, much like The Great Muppet Caper, it's a movie, right? They do reference
I guess,
it.
And they do. I mean, that
we're doing a sequel. Yeah.
We're doing a sequel is a great, catchy number, and it's got joy, it's got catchiness, it's got everything you want. This is in so many ways The Great Muppet Caper, but
kind of better.
A new version of it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, let's do a sequel to a Muppet movie. It's going to be about a heist, and we're going to, instead of it's a movie, it's a sequel. I mean, the similarities are kind of like interestingly interesting.
It's when you explain the plot out loud and like the way they go about it, it would sound almost too close. But if you watch The Great Muppet Caper and you watch Muppets Most Wanted back to back, you're going to get two very different experiences. I mean, they're both Muppet movies, but they're different.
But I think the similarities are intentional,
right?
By saying, hey, we're going to do like kind of The Great Muppet Caper, but very differently. It's a completely different movie for sure. But it's going to be about stealing jewels, and in the end. But of course, in this, we are still the Muppets. We're putting on Muppet shows. We're going on a world tour. I do like Ricky Gervais. I do like Ricky Gervais actually quite a bit. I think he's a funny guy. I like his comedy, and I thought his role as Dominic Bad Guy was interesting.
Who'd have thought he'd be the bad guy?
Right at the beginning. Wait, is it Bad Guy? No, it's Bad G. It's French, but no, it's on the nose. He's the bad guy. It's in his name. I thought that's good. Ty Burrell, I mean, he's doing like the Pink Panther kind of Inspector Clouseau kind of.
I don't know. I like the way that he fell in love with Sam. Like, they start hating each other, but by the end, they're tearfully saying goodbye.
Yeah, and Tina Fey has a big role, but and I love Tina Fey. I mean, I think she's great in things she does, and as far as her writing and comedy. But I felt a lot of the stuff in the Russian Gulag was kind of filler almost.
Oh, really?
Where maybe a lot of stuff we spent there we didn't really need. I believe this is the longest Muppet movie. I might be wrong, but
depends on what version you watch. The Blu-ray has three versions to choose from.
That's right, actually. So I think a lot of that stuff could be cut, maybe where Kermit has to put on a variety show in the prison. And I think that's just because to give Kermit something to do. Because about 20 minutes into the movie, Kermit is kidnapped and replaced by Constantine. Which,
I would agree with you that the heist and the thefts and the rest of the Muppet story is much more interesting than what's going on in the Gulag. But again, we got Ray Liotta's back. And the other Flight of the Conchords guy is in the crew with them. And I thought it was amusing the way they all first were scared of Kermit, but then, like everybody who spends enough time around Kermit, just come to love him because he's awesome.
I think my favorite moment of the Gulag, sorry, of the prison there was with Tina Fey when she's saying goodnight to all the prisoners.
Yes.
And she goes by cell, says, "Goodnight, Bone Crusher. Goodnight," and everyone's nickname. And then it says, "Goodnight, Danny Trejo." My name. Yeah, goodnight. But I thought that was funny, just because everyone's got a character except, no, that's actually Danny Trejo. He's in prison now.
Fun note about Danny Trejo. A, he's an amazing, awesome person. If you can have him in your movie, do it. You're never hurt by having Danny Trejo in your movie. He actually broke his own clause to be in this movie. Although he is in prison, so maybe he's being punished. But he doesn't let himself play a villain in a movie unless his character dies. He wants to see evil punished. He doesn't want to see a reward. He doesn't want it to come out of it badass, right? It's like the Desperado movie where he played the guy with all the knives. They could have built that guy into 3 other movies if they wanted to, but nope, Danny Trejo's got to die. But he came in wanting to be part of the Muppets. Where you want Danny Trejo, right? Like, same thing with Ray Liotta. Like, I've already been in a Muppet movie, but please, right? Respect. I think that might be the thing that I like the Gulag so much, is like, all of those actors didn't need to be there. You could tell that they were there because they wanted to be there. Like, Ray Liotta is doing a song and dance number for a puppet in a gulag.
Yeah. Well, it seems like everything that's written into this movie is written in the name of comedy.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we don't need this, but it's kind of funny, so let's add this scene. Let's add this. We don't need it, but it's kind of funny, so let's add this.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of funny stuff, and I think anything that's added, maybe it doesn't move the plot, but it's kind of funny. So let's put more of this stuff in.
I think that's the whole thing with the complete and total deception of the Muppets. It hurts our feelings as far as Kermit's concerned, but it's really funny. So I forgive it for that reason. I think Kermit deserves better, but it's really funny.
I mean, it's funny because in this movie, I enjoy Constantine more than I enjoy Kermit, because it's just so...
He's funnier.
It's such a bad Kermit impression that he does, and he practices it. And he's like, "Hello, I am Kermit the Frog."
And he thinks he's nailing it, too. He thinks he's amazing. Yeah. My boys, they can sing the number 2 song. They have this, "You're the number 2," and they sing the song back and forth. They hand it back to each other. And my boys can do the whole song. They think it's amazing. They love it. So.
Well, I think, a moment I love in this is it's a Constantine and ensemble moment when I think it's Walter, Fozzie, and Animal catch on to the scam that's going on between their tour manager and Constantine replacing Kermit. And so they get...
Like weeks later, but they got there.
Yeah, they find out what's going on, and so they escape to go warn Kermit of what's happening. So they say, "Oh, well, how are we going to spin this now?" So Constantine tells the group, Walter and Fonzie have left the Muppets. It's like he calls them Fonzie again, and the Muppets, and Rizzo pops up, his only scene in the movie, where he says, they talk about, well, that's kind of strange. We just did a whole movie about Walter joining the Muppets. It seems like kind of strange that he'd leave it now. I mean, we spent a whole lot of time on that, kind of on the expense of other characters that maybe didn't get as much screen time. Right, Robin? Like, I love that moment.
Again, and that's the meta humor that we've been programmed in. Like, that's not a new addition to the Muppets. Like, somebody watching a Muppet movie for the first time might have thought they threw that in there to be kind of hip and now, but that's been built into the Muppets since day one. It's kind of impressive.
Yeah, and it's the moment you realize, oh, that's right, Rizzo and Walt and Robin weren't in the last movie, were they really? But, I mean, you complained a little bit about Walter not being too featured, but I'm going to counter with, I mean, Walter was kind of the main character of the Muppets, and now I think they want to say, okay, now he's part of this group. There's going to be always Kermit, Fozzie, Gonzo, then Piggy, and then the rest. But I think Walter is kind of
in the fold
level
now
with Fozzie and Gonzo now.
Yeah.
And that's he's not now a main character, but he's part of the group. But he was also kind of one of the main guys that did figure out the plot first of all. He tried to warn everybody. Everybody didn't believe him. He's kind of like I think he's sort of like us, like a Muppet version of us introduced into the group, saying, "Okay,
why is nobody seeing this? Why is
you?"
Yeah.
So it's like, if you guys are a Muppet, he's kind of our eyes into this world, so we can kind of take part. But because he's a human Muppet, I guess. But there's definitely a lot of fun to be had in it. I don't know about. I feel like maybe they could have ended stronger. They kind of borrow a Muppets Take Manhattan song at the ending, where they're all back in the gulag. But yeah, there's definitely fun to have here.
Yeah. I also, another great Tina Fey line is, "We're going back to the gulag. Oh, it'll be a lot of fun." No, you will hate it. It's terrible. But if you're going to be in a gulag, if there's Muppets for entertainment, how bad could it be?
Yeah, I didn't really understand how easily the guys broke in to get Kermit out. Nobody really questioned it at all, that there's extra guys here now, but the working in the coal mine way to escape was just a way to get another musical number in.
No, I mean, like all Muppet movies, we're not asked to think super deeply about it. But,
yeah, you're right.
It's another super charming Muppet movie, but that they're still making Muppet movies this high quality, like 35 years into the Muppets, or how, I don't know exact the time frame is when Muppets Most Wanted came out, but decades old franchise, still hitting strong. Congratulations, really.
Muppets Most Wanted was 2014, so we're a decade away.
Wow, that was a quick 10 years.
It's time to make music. It's time to light the lights again.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say about Muppets Most Wanted, or should we try this whole rank thing? Good God.
Let's see if we can do that.
Hey, who?
You.
Hey, me?
Yeah. Come here.
What?
Come here.
What?
Now, you look like an intelligent young man.
I do?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I do, sure.
You look like someone who'd be interested in a bargain.
A bargain?
Yeah.
Sure, why not? Are you a salesman?
Right.
What do you sell?
8s.
8s, like the number 8. Shh. Like the number 8.
Right.
Oh, that's kind of a weird thing to be selling.
Listen.
Yeah?
You take this 8 here, see? It's very useful. You buy it. You hang it on the wall.
Why should I buy an 8 and hang it on the wall?
Next time you wonder how many legs an octopus has, you look at the 8.
Octopus has 8 legs.
I am satisfied with my rank. Wait, 1, 2. Wait, hang on, right? Oh yeah, no, I'm gonna stick with that.
Yeah, I can hear you struggling over it. You're still making last-minute changes.
I'm actually gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it.
You're keeping it? You're locked in. I found the top and the bottom of this list was easy, and the rest was excruciating. Like, it is... I say that too often in my show, but I'm going to say it anyway. This was one of the toughest lists for me to rank. I'm pretty sure it came across in our conversation that our love is real for the Muppets. Like, Scott and I were not phoning shit in this week. Like... Maybe this is not a popular episode of Rank and Review. Maybe it's, we didn't dig as deep as we did in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre podcast, but the love present in this is undeniable. We come in this fanboys, so take that into account as we do our ranks.
It's either going to be that, or it's going to be your most popular episode ever.
Oh, that would be good too. I'll take that. I mean, I'm always good to be pleasantly surprised, but
Because I'm a guy that can watch I Spit on Your Grave and find something good to say about it. and I'll watch it again. But the Muppets, man.
The Muppets. Well, the Muppets are that antidote you need when you've watched, like, Calvier or something like that, and you're hating your life, and you need something to remind you that there is actual music to the world and joy, and that everybody deserves a friend as amazing as Kermit the Frog. And you and I were lucky to grow up having him. So, I know it's not easy, but what was your least favorite of these 6 Muppet movies, and why?
Man, this is really, really hard to say out loud, because I have to put a Muppet movie at last place. Man, I gave a really rave review to a French torture movie called Frontiers once on your show.
That's right.
And I love that movie, but not as much as any of these Muppet movies. It pains me to put the 6th place, the last place Muppet movie, is one that's so close to my heart. But I'm gonna say the Muppets Take Manhattan is 6th place, and that hurts me because I love the Muppets Take Manhattan. It brings me to a special place. There's, if anything, it's the time away from the whole Muppet group. I want them back together. I want Fozzie telling jokes. I want more Muppets.
I felt the time going by in that movie in a way I didn't in the other ones.
Yeah, I mean, some of the songs I think were key, and some of the best songs of all the Muppet movies are in that movie. But I'm going to put it in 6th place. Number 5, I'm going to put Muppets from Space. I think a big part of that is missing any original Muppet songs. You got to have some Muppet music just to really make it a full-on true Muppet movie. We've been so far through this whole franchise that's part of the whole deal.
Right.
And I really did feel, we're just going to do. It's just something that I think really was missed. As much as I love the Gonzo story and I love all the comedy in it, that's kind of where it has to end up. It was tough to put it there. I did different versions of this list before, where everyone was in different spots, but that's I got to put it there. Muppets Most Wanted is going to be a number 4. It goes above Space just because I think there's a lot of ensemble stuff. That was actually tough. 4 and 5 was really tough for me. But I really liked what they did with it for the most part. The comedy was really strong, and you could see that they were trying to give everybody their spot. They had a lot of little Muppet Show stuff. It was kind of neat seeing, that was your idea of the Muppets Take Manhattan being an actual live touring show.
Yeah.
That's what Muppets Most Wanted was. It was, hey, let's do the Muppets on the road. Let's go tour and do a Muppet Show with a special guest star from each country. And that was kind of a neat idea, I thought. And so I kind of really grabbed onto that, I guess, maybe. And, definitely had fun with that movie and laughed a lot. Miss Piggy, I want to shout out, I forgot about that. Maybe my most favorite Miss Piggy moment of all the movies was in Muppets Most Wanted, when she goes kind of Hulk on Constantine at the end, where, the Avengers, where Hulk just kind of smashes Loki. She just kind of throws Constantine the fuck all over the place.
Yeah. Smashes him into the wall.
And that's when Constantine says, wow, what a woman. Kermit steps in. Yeah, my woman. But it was kind of a cool moment. Anyways, top 3, I'm going to give number 3 to The Great Muppet Caper. There's so much fun to have there. I couldn't have it anywhere from the top 3. Number 1, obviously, is going to be the Muppet movie. It's like you said, one of the best movies. It's in my heart. It's part of my heart. Number 2 is the Muppets, which is as close to the Muppet movie as I could possibly expect a movie to be. There's no way I could have expected that movie to be that good when I seen it.
Yeah.
And it, that movie just gives me everything I wanted in a Muppet movie. And I feel like, man, you just meant, I don't know. When they wrote that movie, it says, what does Scott want in this movie? Well, let's put that in there. And they put all the stuff in there. And I love it. So the Muppets, number 2, the Muppet movie, obviously, number 1.
Yeah, we're incredibly close. I don't think we're going to be fighting over this, brother, but my list is a little bit different. I have it written down here, so I'm not going to cheat you. Yes. Muppets Take Manhattan. Look, it's not a bad movie. I feel like I've been talking shit about it. It's obviously my least favorite of this batch of 6. But there are no bad movies in this batch of 6 at all. Like I was defending Muppets from Space and saying how people talk shit about it. No one's allowed to call Muppets from Space a terrible movie when Kermit the Swamp Years and Muppet Wizard of Oz exists. Like, leave that one alone. In 5th place, this, again, the middle of this list is impossible for me, but in 5th place I put Muppets Most Wanted. I think that it's got the most padding on it, and it's, the whole Kermit thing, whatever. I mean, I love it. It's hilarious. It's fun, and it's funny. I'm not giving it a thumbs down review, but somehow I had to put it in 5th place. In 4th place, I am putting Muppets from Space. I think that it's maybe the funniest. Like, it makes me laugh out loud almost more than any of the other ones. I just appreciated how much they prioritized putting a smile on your face and keeping it there. Maybe they don't go for the aw shucks, or maybe the aw shucks doesn't work as much, but there's so much shit that makes me laugh and makes me just... The cosmic fish. The fact that they came up with the cosmic fish is great for me. And, I'm always going to enjoy Muppets from Space. I wish you could find a good widescreen copy of it for sale, but I guess we'll have to live with Disney Plus for the time being. In 3rd place, I put The Great Muppet Caper. It's very sort of similar in vibe, like we said, to Muppets Most Wanted, but it's still got that classic form 80s Muppet feel that you just can't escape from. This is their absolute glory heyday, and everybody was excited about the Muppets, including, Charles Grodin and everybody on board. So, Great Muppet Caper all the way in 3rd place. In 2nd place, The Muppets. Congratulations, enthusiastic congratulations to everybody involved in the Muppets. You could not have nailed the tone, the spirit, and the heart of that franchise any better. Like, I was hoping to be happy with it, but like you said, I could not have anticipated how happy I was going to be walking out of that movie. And the joy I saw in my kids, especially Tristan, like, they loved it. And I saw myself in the joy that they experienced of the movie. It was maybe one of the best theater experiences, that just comes to mind for me. I'm attached to it. I will always feel strongly about the Muppets. But the Muppet movie is the Muppet movie. I don't think I can oversell it. Like, it was unlike any movie that had ever been made before it, and it's still, I think, better done than any movie like it since. It's incredible. And the achievement of it, from this guy who mainly did TV episodes after this, like, a lot of the stuff they would probably have to figure out how to do it, right? They wrote the script and then they figured, I think it would be amazing to see Kermit on a bike. How are we going to do it? Figure it out. The hands-on, there's no CGI in these movies, right? These are all handmade puppets, and sets are made to accommodate the performers both above and beneath the stages. Sometimes they're using forced perspective work to make people look bigger or smaller. Every scene is an elaborate special effects sequence. Every scene. The Muppet movie, it's one of these quiet masterpieces. It is a masterpiece, but I don't think it is recognized as much as a masterpiece. And if nothing else is accomplished by this episode of Rank and Review, I want to scream from the rooftops that the Muppet movie is an absolute masterpiece, an absolute classic. Save it for future generations. I also think, more than any of the other Muppet movies, it's going to age really well. For a movie as old as it is, the humor stands up. The fact that they went old school vaudeville and dad joke with everything, in a way, really helps it. It's unmistakably 70s in spirit, but it's timeless, and it's just wanting to make you smile and feel good. And thank you for that. So our lists are close enough that I don't think we should fight it out. But if you want to get into a scrap, I have just 2 quick questions for you. So another hour or 2. What, if you had to choose, do you have a favorite Muppet? And what do you want from the Muppet franchise moving forward?
Well, I mean, first of all, we were very close. I mean, it was 4 and 5 that were mixed up.
Yeah.
And that was my toughest one. 4 and 5 as well. They're right there with each other, like a hair apart. I could have swapped them easily either way. So tomorrow, if we would have done this tomorrow, we could have matched.
There you go.
It was that close. In the end, my favorite Muppet, geez. I mean, it's funny because like Jim Henson was Kermit. I mean, there's a documentary of Jim Henson on Disney Plus right now. It's kind of nice to watch if you get a chance. I took the time to watch it because this man created so much magic for me in my youth. You know, not just the Muppets, but then there was Sesame Street, there's Fraggle Rock, there was Labyrinth, there was the Dark Crystal. Just everything he did was just amazing, and it was neat. And you realize how close his personal voice was to Kermit, just kind of tightened up a little bit. And Kermit was kind of his alter ego almost, but just a little bit more outgoing than he was. And it was just kind of neat to watch that. But me, like I said before, my Disney Plus profile is a picture of Gonzo, kind of the outcast, kind of the weirdo. So I've always kind of sided with Gonzo a bit. Another one that always stood out was the Swedish Chef. My dad was a big fan of
his human hands. His human hands fucked me up when I was a kid. I didn't even other Muppets that they used people hands, they would have gloves on, so their hands didn't look like people hands. The Swedish Chef had people hands, and it fucked me up.
Yeah, totally. And sometimes I would miss some of the jokes in his sketches because I'm watching his hands the whole time, thinking, "Are these human hands? No, that's a puppet. No, that's real. That's a human hand. Yeah, they're human hands." But my dad, growing up, he was a big Swedish Chef fan. We'd watch the Muppets together. And if the Swedish Chef came on, as soon as he'd start his "Yergy Berky Bird," you know, my dad would get all excited. You know, and every time he'd yell "Bork, bork, bork," and he'd throw whatever utensils he was holding in his hands against the back, and a ladle or a spatula or a pan, whatever it was. Man, to this day, it makes me laugh every time. So the Swedish Chef is right up there as well. And Rolf the dog has got some kind of like weirdness to him that speaks to me. He's kind of just this
Rolf.
chill, cool. He's a chill, cool dog, and I mean, I used to have swim trunks with Animal on them. So
I feel like
those are kind of the guys that kind of.
Ralph the dog is like a combination of Tom Waits and the Dude. If you put the Dude and Tom Waits together and then put him into a dog that played piano, that's Ralph, and I fucking love him.
So if there was a way to kind of meld the Swedish Chef, Gonzo, Rolf the dog, and Animal into one Muppet, I guess that would be me.
Yeah. I don't know why, when I was a kid, I was a big Fozzie guy. I thought it was funny how not funny Fozzie was, but how he thought that he was funny, and the fact that he would laugh at his own jokes and his whole waka 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 shtick. But honestly, I think it's almost too easy. It's like saying Homer's your favorite Simpson character, but Kermit, man. Kermit the Frog. Not only is he like the best friend that you'd ever possibly want, but some of his lines are just so funny that they blow by. There's a line in the Muppets where all of the gang has come back to Kermit and they're gonna save the show. We've kidnapped Jack Black. What? What's a bigger crime, Kermit? The end of the Muppets or kidnapping Jack Black? And Kermit responds without a beat, "Kidnapping Jack Black!" Oh my god. He's weirdly real. And he's always been weirdly real to me. I can relate to that piece of felt. And that is an incredible accomplishment. I love Kermit the Frog. I mean, I love a lot of the Muppets. There's an old Sesame Street sketch that I never understood, but I always thought was hilarious, where I think Ernie is at a playground, and this guy in a trench coat comes up to him and says, Hey, Ernie, psst, you want to buy a number 6? And then he starts outlining all the different things you can do with this number 6. You can turn it this way, and it's a number 9, but it's all like this weird covert drug transaction that's happening in a schoolyard. Like, who wrote that sketch? What were you going for? Like, this is the Muppet world, though. It's not just for kids. It's not just for adults. It's for anybody who enjoys feeling good, having positive feelings in their life, laughing and smiling and being charmed. What do I want from the Muppets? I think another great Muppet movie would always be in keeping, but I'm really on board with this idea of taking the Muppets to Broadway. I think that could be something that they could do. There was that famous sort of dirty puppet show making fun of Sesame Street, something K, I can't remember. It's escaping me right now. But my point is they have done big Broadway shows that involve interacting with puppets. And it seemed like something that could be doable. And I feel like people would go to see the Muppets live. Like, sign me up.
How about, what if we get Peter Jackson to direct it?
Do you need Peter Jackson to direct it?
I don't know, I'm just thinking back to Meet the Feebles.
Yeah, that's right.
He could do something with them.
What I don't want R-rated Muppets, and like
I don't either.
As much as
they gotta be sweet with some innuendo is fine. You gotta have Janice kind of having Janice lines, and maybe Rizzo and Gonzo do something on the side when Camilla's not home. But
maybe some Muppet sci-fi, maybe like a Pigs in Space sort of type vibe of movie, or go genre hopping a little bit. Make Muppets go medieval. I'm on board. Just honor the characters and honor the warmth. It's got to be funny and it's got to be warm. I got to walk out of that thinking that was funny and the world ain't such a bad place. That's what the Muppets have always brought.
Well, the Muppet world, and you and me have talked about this exact thing. You've said to me, I want to live in a Muppet world.
Absolutely.
I remember I wrote that down. That was the line you said. And to me, living in a Muppet world, I think we talked about this, and that's like, you're going to hail a cab, and you're going to get in, and the driver is a bear.
Yep.
Or it's going to be Beauregard, and you're going to think nothing of it. You're going to get in, give them your money. This is just part of it. You're going to be in an office building. You're going to get in an elevator. There's going to be 8 penguins in it. And you're going to get in that elevator. This is just how life is.
Tell me that wouldn't be an improvement to your day, though. Like,
oh, yeah. And no one's looking like, wait, there's penguins in the elevator. No, of course there is.
Yeah.
This is the world we live in.
Yeah.
But you talked about a line that you were talking about some kind of lines. And one that I forgot to mention in Muppets Most Wanted that really stood out was a line from Lou. When Constantine was talking about Fonzie,
right,
and Walter have left the Muppets, but Lou says, wait, we can leave the Muppets?
Such a good throwaway line.
That's all he took from that. Like, wait, we can actually do that.
We have choices, free will.
And I'm going to tell you, Larry, that line alone was the reason it went above Muppets from Space, because that was so fucking hilarious to me that moved up 1 point. So that one line.
Every now and then I find myself randomly thinking about Doctor? Hello, Doctor. Just 2 doctors standing in the hallway. Bunch of Muppets pretending to be a doctor from Muppets from Space will just jump into my head uninvited, and it's funny every fucking time. I don't know why, but it's...
It's like when they do Muppet Man.
Yes.
To fool Miss Piggy. I mean, it's so silly, but it looks so cool, and it's funny.
And even Miss Piggy admonishes herself for falling for Muppet Man. I can't believe I fell for Muppet Man. That's hilarious.
Man, something wrong with us. Another Muppet I got to shout out to is Sweetums. Because I loved always, since it was the design of Sweetums, because he was large, he was big.
Yeah.
Bigger than a human, and in Disneyland they used to have this Muppet show that they would do, and it's in a theater, but it was 4D, so you'd have it on the screen but it would also come out in the crowd. But then Sweetums would come out into the audience as well. And for me, I was, I was well into adulthood. I was thrilled beyond belief that Sweetums is in the crowd. He was running past the audience. And I thought this was great. And we went to Disneyland again when the kids were a bit older. And we're doing all the rides, doing all the attractions. And we didn't do the Muppets Theater yet. And it was never busy. It was kind of in this abandoned area of Disneyland where a lot of people didn't go to. I'm not sure. I don't think it's there anymore, actually. But we did our last day. It's like everyone gets to choose one thing to do. It's like, guys, we haven't gone to the Muppets Theater yet. I was like, oh, I knew you were going to say this, Dad. So we got to go to the Muppets Theater. But, man, there's nothing like the Muppets. And I love, if nothing else, if there's no more Muppet movies to be made, I'm sure there will be. But keep them alive. Bring them back every now and then. Give them a one-season show. One show I really liked was The Muppets, I think it was just called. And it was... or it's just called Muppets. It was like Office, like The Office.
Yeah, it was the Office style, but they canceled it after one season because we can't have nice things.
Yeah, it was canceled after one season, but the one season we had was hilarious. It was definitely more adult themed. It was running a Miss Piggy talk show, but there was a lot of behind the scenes, just like the mockumentary Office style, people talking to the camera. Especially one episode, I think everybody was hungover. Like that kind of adult stuff, and especially Beaker and Dr. Honeydew. It was like, are you guys wearing each other's clothes? But that was a great show. If you can catch that season, it's on Disney Plus. It's definitely worth your time. It's
really, with the exception of Muppet Wizard of Oz and Kermit's Swamp Years, if it's got the Muppet label on it, it's a pretty safe bet.
I agree. I'm a Muppet fan, and sometimes I wonder, Larry, am I a man or am I a Muppet?
Either way, you're awesome, brother. Thank you so much for doing this, man. I'm going to pull the plug because we're 25 minutes into the rank now.
This is crazy.
Thank you for doing this, my bro. See, that wasn't so bad, right? 6 Muppet reviews, we can get behind that. That's harmless fun. The Muppets are a source of good in the world, and I want to fan the flames of that goodness. If you have feedback, please send it to ranknreview@gmail.com. That's RANKNREVIEW@gmail.com. The website is Ranknreview.ca. My name is Larry Parsons. My friend Jason DeBray has this podcast called The Shelf Shedding Movie Show, which you should listen to. And if you haven't visited the Muppets for a while, that's on you, man. That's on you.
Okay, everybody, good record.
Oh, thanks a lot, boss.
Is everybody out?
Yeah, I gotta go now. See you later, Chief.
Okay.
Bye, Chief. On the rebound.
Okay, all right.
Kermit? Kermit, the door is locked. Kermit? Kermit? It's dark in here. Help. Help. Oh, help. 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 Help.
One little gag. I do want to add one gag that I think I laughed more at this time than any other time that I've watched it. Maybe I'm just catching things different. When, before Animal becomes Giant Animal near the end,
right.
Which, by the way, I think is the first time I remember cheering in an audience in a theater. Like when I seen Animal break through the roof, I'm sure I did this with my fist and went, yes! But I was so happy. But anyways, before that, when they're doing the backstory saying Dr. Bunsen and Honeydew and his assistant Beaker, they're working on these giant grow pills.
That's right.
And there's a moment where they're explaining what they are. And they say, it makes anything, a lot bigger than normal. then I think it's Floyd. He says like, does it work on, because they had a giant prune on the table. That's what it was. He said, does it work on, anything else? I say, oh yeah, it works on other things. And I feel like
it just blew by.
Was that a penis joke? Maybe say, hey, give me one of those. But then Beaker even says, he says, yes, it does, but the effect is sadly temporary. Then Beaker says, sadly temporary. They tried this, didn't they? I always thought there's something between Bunsen, Honeydew, and Beaker, but.
Well, remind me when we get to Muppets from Space. I think they snuck in a blowjob joke.